contractors are constantly knowing they're always being bid against other people. And so there's this wall, this dividing wall, where mentally I grew up thinking everybody else is my enemy. And then when I finally learned real estate and I started seeing people like you, I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually become people's friends that are my somewhat competitors. And together we actually become stronger.
You spend a lot of time away from your family to make money, to feed your family. But then, as we grow up, like for example, me, I didn't really grow up a lot with my dad because he was always working. Right. So like if my dad would have been 5, maybe I would have had more time with him. Maybe the divorce wouldn't even have happened, right?
Right.
So that's what that's what happens if people don't, educate themselves financially. Like you've obviously already done. So you know how to keep your marriage strong, your business strong. You know how to keep all those things strong because you give them time, right?
Yeah. I don't have to think about the weights that I'm doing or the sets. I can literally get on a step mill and get in a zone and really dig into like big life choices of like business.
That's
and
where you get
relationships. Yeah, like it's hard to explain, man. And I just get into a zone and I can just like, I can do work.
You talk a lot about in your podcast, and I can tell that's what you're passionate about, just getting stronger mentally. What are your thoughts on just the event itself and how that changes your mindset?
Yeah, when I think about my own life, right? Growing up in that neighborhood, the way guys made their bones was they went to jail. That was their college. Whether somebody did a 5-year bid, a 10-year bid, 30, there's guys still in jail from when I left the neighborhood. And I questioned myself, like I'm sure all young boys would, like, could I do this? Mm-hmm. Could I go to jail? Am I tough enough? And so it's been something I've been wrestling with forever. And I don't think any of us, not even Mike Tyson at his height, I don't think any of us think or get to a place where you are. I think you're always wrestling with that because the mind wants to avoid discomfort, right? And so how do we help people become a little tougher, a little stronger? Well, for me, it's been consistency. It's been whether I want to do it or not, I got to do that thing in the morning, that workout, that cold shower, that ritual,
right?
And get a streak. So it's not that I do it for 2 days and take 2 weeks off. I do it every fucking day.
Yep.
And when I'm able to look back, that gives me confidence. Like, wait a minute, I did it even when I didn't want to do it.
Right.
And so the next time I face that tough challenge, it could be running 100 miles. It could, whatever that thing is where I want to quit, I'm able to fall back on that consistency, on that confidence. So, so I would say that's where I get my ability to overcome. Why does a race do it? How could a Tough Mudder event or a Spartan event make somebody tougher? I think it does a few things. I think it instills that consistency because once you sign up, and again, I've had 10 million people sign up for events. Once you sign up, you start going to bed earlier, you start waking up earlier, you start drinking the green juice, you put down the glass of wine, you don't eat the cookie because you're scared out of your mind that 3 months from now, you got a fight on the calendar, right? Without that fight on the calendar, you're not doing the work.
Yep.
So there's a ton of work and homework that gets done leading up to the event. And then at the event, you're challenged.
Yeah.
And you want to quit.
Yep.
And you want to turn around and you can't breathe and you're sweating and you're wrestling. You're meeting yourself in a mirror, by the way. You're finding out what you're made of. And somehow you get to the finish line and you're a new person.
Yeah. So I'll share this. People, especially when you start to have success and, you do all these successful things, people are like, what keeps you motivated? What pushes you to the next level? And I'll tell you, for me, I am super motivated by new challenges that I've never done. Flipping houses, it's easy. I'll do that on autopilot, and once a business gets going, cool, easy, autopilot. When I was first getting started, the hardest thing I ever did was play minor league baseball. I was telling you this before, like I was making $1,200 a month, having to figure out how to survive on that, while also every single day going to a job where somebody else is trying to take your spot and you're trying to just grind it out, get to the big leagues. You play 140 games in 150 days. It is really hard, and it's not a one-day hard thing. It's a 6-month hard thing. And then, to your point of prepping, the other 6 months, I'm just prepping for the 6 months of death, right? And that built me up into who I am today, where now, dude, I haven't missed a workout in 10 years where it wasn't like I woke up and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like working out today. It's not even an option. It's just I wake up, I work out.
Like brushing your teeth.
That's who I am. And I've stayed the same weight for 12 years. I've stayed in shape even though I don't play anymore because it's just ingrained in who I am. Now, physically, that's one thing which I think Tough Mudder and Spartan will obviously help you do as you train. You're going to get physically better. But mentally, what that's done for me in my post-career has been insane. You know, when we have bad days at the office, when we get screwed on a deal, somebody quits, when a customer's pissed, when a house falls out of contract, when, you know, a launch doesn't go as good as we hoped, when we spend all this money on marketing and it flopped. I don't sit there and I'm like, poor me, this sucks. I'm like, hey, that's life. What are we going to do to overcome this challenge? You know, give me the problem and let's go. Like, I want to solve the problem.
You know why?
Why?
Because you practiced hard.
Yeah.
People practice piano, they practice math, right? But they don't practice hard. You practiced hard.
Yeah.
All those years, you were getting ready for this.
Yeah. And I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
But like, yeah, dealing with just constant stress on the body and in the mind was something that, you know, when you have 5,000 people in a stadium watching you every night and like they're just waiting for you to fail, they see you strike out, they see you make an error, and you just are like, that is what it is.
You gotta toughen up.
You gotta toughen up. You know, they're gonna boo you, they're gonna whatever. Oh well, you can't take it to heart. All you can do is get to the next pitch, the next play, whatever else. But
keep moving forward.
You keep moving forward, and I think that's what so many people lack is they just don't do hard things, like you said.
Yeah, look. So the analogy, if you had the choice and you could have a child grow up in a greenhouse, in a perfect environment, gets watered on time, fed on time, perfect temperature control, or your child can grow up on the side of a mountain where it's got to wrap roots around a rock and hang on for life while the wind is blowing the storm. Like, which kid is going to do better in the real world? Of course, the one that wasn't in the greenhouse, that grew up on the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
And so I have friends that row rowboats across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
And before they row a rowboat across the Atlantic, they go out in the North Sea and they practice in really tough conditions.
Right.
They don't go to the British Virgin Islands and hang out on the beach.
Yeah.
They're getting ready for what they're about to do.
Yeah.
And we as parents and we as teachers and we as a society have screwed this whole thing up. We give everybody a trophy right now.
Yeah.
We don't prepare them for hard. We make sure no one's feelings are hurt. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. Stupid. So stupid. Yeah, I think I've read a lot of books on parenting too as well, because you see it with businesses, right? Like you and I have built successful businesses. And so a lot of times we want to make it easy for our kids because we're like, oh, you know, I went through the hard stuff, so you don't have to. That's like the common thing with successful people. It's like, no, they have to go through hard things too. And so I've been constantly thinking about that. My kids are young. They're only 3 and 2. But I'm like, how do I make them go through hard things? Because they're going to grow up in a really nice house. They're going to go on nice vacations. And, you know, I don't want to just make them have a terrible life, but how do I instill difficult times for them?
Well, you met the right guy.
Tell me.
So I wrote a parenting book. It's called 10 Rules for Resilience.
Okay.
It came out, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And my wife was afraid because we don't know, like, if the methodology we're using, if it's going to be good or bad. You never really know.
It's a theory.
And somebody said to me many years ago, you're going to have many choices with your children to go hard or go soft, and always go hard. Now, I would say, if this was the 1700s, if you and I were doing this podcast in the 1700s, I would say we probably want to go a little easier because life was hard. Every day they were standing in, horse shit. Yeah. The kids were dying at birth. Mm-hmm. But in the life we live today, it's so easy, certainly in the first world where we are, and especially in your house or my house or anybody that's able to pay their bills, right? It's so easy that we have to choose hard. And so what we did is going to seem very unorthodox, and I'm sure some people are going to call social services on me. But what we did was at a very young age, we said, I said to my wife, I wonder if we can get a kung fu master to live with us.
Okay, where's this going?
There was a scene in Kill Bill with Uma Thurman where she's trained by a kung fu master. And I said, I wonder if we can get a kung fu master. My wife went for it. So I somehow procured a kung fu master from China to move into our house, our farm in Vermont. And this Kung Fu master, for 3 or 4 years, every morning, woke the kids up, 5:30 in the morning, trained them in the barn.
This was not like a little thing to like, this was a really long-term thing. Okay.
And every night at 5:30, Kung Fu master trained them. And he only spoke Mandarin, no English, so they had to learn Mandarin at a young age. And they weren't his kids.
Yeah.
So he was a lot tougher on them than I would be or my wife would be. And thank God we had the barn next to the house, because this was all going on in the barn. If it was going on in the house and my wife heard the kids whimper, she would have never went for it. No mom would have went for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it started to toughen the kids up. It started to get them they became a little more athletic.
Yeah.
They became a little more flexible. They started to learn Mandarin. And so I quickly said, we need to manufacture adversity in their life, because they live in a nice house.
Yeah.
They have food whenever they want. And so we got to make things a little tougher for them. If it's cold out, we got to go out with them.
Yeah.
Right? If it's raining, we got to go out in the rain.
Yeah.
We can't give in when they say. There was a year where I took one of my sons was being difficult. I had Santa leave all his presents at the top of the mountain for Christmas. So all the other kids woke up and they had presents on it, but because he was a pain in the ass, little feety pajamas, boots, 2-hour hike up the mountain and to go get the presents, right?
Yeah. Then you got to bring him down.
I got to bring them down. So anyway, we started to just manufacture lots of, every once in a while, turn the hot water heater off in the house.
Wow.
Right? We're doing cold showers. They don't know. They don't. Oh, it's broken. I lied to them.
They could just go look at the knob turn.
So I would say privilege, which is what you're talking about, is actually a negative.
I agree.
For kids.
I agree.
And if you want your kids, there was an ancient Spartan saying, better than us. The job is to make your kids better than us. If you want to make them better than us, they have to struggle.
Right.
And so my wife and I are constantly making them struggle.
Yeah. No, I love
We
that.
moved them around the world, by the way. We literally, hey, you know what? We're becoming too complacent on the farm. We're moving to Asia. Right? We moved to Singapore. That became too easy. We're going to Tokyo. Now they got to figure out Japanese. Right? They're joining a swim team. They don't swim. So what? They're on a Japanese swim team now.
Yeah.
Right? So the harder it is, the more we throw them into it.
How old are your kids now?
My oldest is 16. My youngest is 9.
How do you think it's played out all these years of doing it?
Look, I think if you put my wife or her family in a lineup next to me and you let them loose, they're not coming to me, because I'm not Mr. Fun.
Yeah.
Right? Grandpa, grandma, they're getting them ice cream or whatever. But my goal wasn't to be their friend.
Yeah.
My goal was to prepare them for life.
Yeah.
So I think now my oldest, who's getting ready for college and sees the benefits of what we did now, I didn't even tell you, I gotta tell you, he's now look, my mom was tough on me.
Yeah.
I did not like her. I liked my dad. My dad was easy on me.
Right.
Fast forward, I'm 27 years old. I'm like, oh, my mom was right. My dad was wrong. Everything my mom. So it's going to be one of those things, I hope, where when they're 27, 28, 30, they're like, Dad was right.
I see why he did that.
Yeah, And so we're not looking to build friends here. We're looking to build adults.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell you, my 8-year-old ran the Boston Marathon when he was 8. Now he's 16.
How, is he the youngest participant?
I had read that there was another 8-year-old that had done. So no, I had not that year, but many years earlier. And it's not something, you can't even sign an 8-year-old up. So we had to start after the start line and we had to finish right before the finish line. But he got it done.
Yeah.
His brother at 7 ran New York Marathon. His sister at 6 ran one of our beasts in Indonesia. So, and I'm not pounding my chest and saying, oh, what I'm
These
saying.
kids are beasts.
Well, no, what I'm saying is a human being, our species, is capable of so much more. Everybody listening to this, we're holding our children back.
Yeah.
Oh, a kid can't walk to school alone. Kid can't do.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think no matter, that is, by the way, great advice for us parenting. We have to manufacture adversity. So I'm going to think about that as they get older.
No, you got to start now.
Start now.
You got to start now.
What would you do for a 3 and a 2-year-old?
You got to get them to crawl further than they would have crawled if they're crawling. Walk further than they would have walked. We're climbing stairs. Oh, Dad, this is too hard. My daughter, my older daughter, when she would get out of bed, it would be 100 burpees. And she would cry, Dad, it's too many. Don't get out of bed. I don't know what to tell you.
All right. My daughter's actually a lunatic. She would be like, okay. She's like crazy. But yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think as adults too, we need to always push ourselves to do new things that are uncomfortable, we've never achieved before. You know, you spoke about fasting earlier. I just finished a 5-day fast about a month ago.
Nice.
And it was a spiritual fast. And I'd never gone 5 days before, just pure water, no sups or teas or anything. And man, it was just great mentally, spiritually, everything, just going through that and putting my body through it. And it was great. The one thing that I've always admired about you, and I've told you this before, I was like, bro, we don't do nearly enough together. And I put that on me because I think, and Grant said this too about himself. He's like, I'm tired of being a lone wolf and like doing things myself. Like I'm ready to just embrace, you know, partnerships and collabs and all those. And like, even for myself, I've been like, yeah, you know, I can kind of just do my own thing and stay in my own lane in my bubble and, you know, whatever. And I see you on the other side where you're like, hey, who's ready?
I'm clapping with everybody.
Yeah, I'm in. You got a heartbeat? Like, let's go. What can we do together? You know? And I think it's amazing. You know, even when I asked him like, hey, Pace, you want to speak? You know, you want to join the boardroom? You're like, yeah, like just tell me where to do it. You didn't even ask the dates. You didn't ask any of that.
Nope. I just want to be around quality people and do really fun things. Dude, when you don't know this game, right? You don't know real estate. You don't know how to make money at a high level. Remember what it was like when you had no control, you were powerless. Like even when you were in baseball, like the only skill that you had was baseball. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah. And so you leave baseball, the only thing you can do is go, I'm going to go flip couches.
Didn't know what to do.
You had nothing. You had no other skills besides that. So you feel, I remember going back to my Instagram, my first post I ever made was 13 years ago. And I remember telling myself, I'm going to use my Instagram as a way to journal my life. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm journaling and I remember every time I made a post, what I was thinking, how I felt, what I was going through. My first post is a post where, bro, I felt so helpless. Mm. And what was I missing? Knowing what I know now, what was I missing when I made that post? High quality relationships and skills. That's it. And now you delete everything I have. Delete my bank account, my real estate, delete everything. I have the relationships and I have the skill sets that I've learned from those relationships. I have all the power in the world. Yeah. And
you can go to zero and you'll be fine.
Be fine. And it's the biggest confidence booster is just being around really quality people. And I grew up in the contractor world. Mm-hmm. And so contractors are always pitting against other contractors. It is in the definition. It's like homeowners go get 3 bids. So contractors are constantly knowing they're always being bid against other people. And so there's this wall, this dividing wall where mentally I grew up thinking everybody else is my enemy. And then when I finally learned real estate and I started seeing people like you, I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually become people's friends that are my somewhat competitors. Mm-hmm. And together we actually become stronger.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've realized about business in general, right? Because coming from the world of sports, it's very much like the world of construction where you're kind of like on your own. And if I don't play well, I'm kind of going to get cut or released or I'm done. And there's nobody that can really help me. Like granted, the team can still win if I don't perform, but still they're going to be looking to get rid of me. Yeah.
And then like same thing when you guys are coming up to the big leagues, right? Like there's a draft. Yep. It's like there's competing against everybody
always behind you trying to take your spot. Right. And you're trying to take someone else's spot. And it is what it is. There's only one starting spot at that position.
Right.
So it's not like we can go share the spot. It's you or me. And that's like literally how it was raised. And, you know, when I came into business, I started to realize like, man, it's different because I don't have to do it alone. In fact, if I suck at something, somebody else can be good at it and we can do really well together. Whereas in baseball, it's like, dude, if I can't field and I can only hit, I'm kind of limited. Nobody can go field for me. It just is what it is.
Well, if you look at my collaboration with Jamil, which is my longest lasting collaboration, Jamil, the reason why our collab works out so well is because he has a skill that I don't have.
Which is?
It's a very weird skill.
Being a genie or what?
In some ways, yes, it is like being a genie.
Okay.
It is not real estate related at all. He has the ability to tell whether somebody's a good person or a bad person immediately. Mm. what do they call it? It's like a,
he's got that motherly instinct or something.
yes, I don't have that.
Okay.
I
You assume everyone's good.
everybody's good. And I'm like a puppy dog. Like, let's pet me. Let's hang out. Let's do stuff. And Jamil will say, stay away from that person. They see the way they're doing this. And Jamil's been the guy that has had my back for the last 5 or 6 years. And he's the polar opposite. He's yin and yang.
Yeah.
And so he brings things to the table that I will never in my life ever be able to acquire those skill sets. And so as long as I keep him as close to me as possible, he's navigated me through the jungle like 10 times faster than I could have by myself. And the same thing on my side, when I met Jamil, guess what he had? 0 Instagram posts. Literally, his profile photo was a picture of an owl. And so, so here's what I would do. I would do Instagram stories every day, like 10 times. And I would.
What year was this?
This is 2017. So 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
And I've always done Instagram, even when I was a contractor, before I was ever thinking about branding myself. Again, I wanted to keep it as a journal, right?
Yeah.
So I started tagging Jamil in all these stories, and he'd be like, bro, why do you keep tagging me? And I'm like, well, you can turn the notifications off on your phone, but I suggest you just take those Instagram posts and reshare them, and reshare them. So for the first 2 years Jamil was on Instagram, it was just a reshare of all of my stories. And then he got the mechanics down.
Yeah.
Right. He started going, okay, I understand this. Okay, I'm going to add like a little GIF. I'm going to add a little this. And then all of a sudden he's like, what's next? What are we doing next? Mm-hmm. So what I brought to the table for Jamil is the storytelling, the ability to market yourself and do all those types of things. And then together we've gone out and now we're dividing and conquering. So he's at one mastermind. I'm at a different mastermind.
Learning each and then coming together.
Bringing resources, relationships, etc. Mm-hmm. Bro, I was driving here with Cody Sperber. You just did a podcast with him just recently as well. And Sperber goes, this was the most genius thing you guys ever did, was collaborating with each other and growing 10 times faster than you could have on your own.
Well, and yeah, I mean, Cody's another example of a guy who's kind of been a lone wolf.
Yes.
Right. And then he's now seeing the benefits of getting around everyone and opening up, and it's been big. Yeah.
And doing big events like Tykes is one of those amazing pilgrimages that you kind of have to do. Like if you're trying to have influence, be around people with influence, learn what that even means, how that can make you money, you got to make that pilgrimage. You got to come in and like be around the people and the energy. When we were at Grant's thing 3 months ago, I knew that I was going to walk away. I mean, Timbaland was sitting 2 chairs behind me.
Yeah.
Right. It's a different atmosphere, but I didn't know when I left, I would get involved in 2 other people's businesses and literally have made in 3 months $1 million, non-real estate related. And it's just getting around the right people as quickly as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. I wish I knew this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think it just comes down to being open to doing it, but also to being able to provide value, right? Nobody's letting you inside their business.
No.
You know, the guy you were 5 years ago.
No.
Right? So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg thing where it's like, how do you get good enough where people are like wanting to have you come on versus, you know, you having to go earn your stripes and.
Yeah, like a really good example of that. And I told Jamil today, I was like, Ryan's kind of like a bigger brother that like is ahead of you 10 steps. And that as you're coming up through like, it's like you've already gone to our 9th grade English class. And so when I'm there 3 years later, you're like, hey, watch out. Mrs. Greenwood's going to tell you this, this, and this. You got to watch out for these things. So it's kind of nice to follow in your footsteps. And one of those things very specifically is I've looked up to you for a long time, but also one of my heroes is Minority Mindset.
Yeah. Jaspreet, yeah.
Right. And you guys are friends because you deserve those. You earned your stripes. I had not at the time. Mm-hmm. And so a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I wanted to be his friend. I wanted to be in his world. I didn't deserve it yet. I had to go put the work in. I had to get better at storytelling. I had to get better at posting. I had to get better at consistency. I had to get better at so many other things.
Right.
To the point where I had a big enough audience. We got a TV show. Now I have something to offer.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that it wasn't in my mind 3 years ago.
Right.
It was that I knew I didn't deserve it. And instead of me being a baby about it, like, oh, nobody wants to play with me. It's like, nobody wants to play with me for good reason. Get better at what you're doing, get around better people, and then at one point you'll deserve it. And then I sent you a text message. Actually, this is what's cool. I didn't send you a text message.
Oh, yeah.
I posted on Instagram stories and I go, I want to know Minority Mindset. And in 5 minutes, you go, oh, Pace, I know that teacher. Mrs. Greenwood, I've been there. Here's and you put me in touch with Jaspreet.
Yeah. Yep.
And so you have to go through all these things. And then I think the toughest part of all of this, really, when you're building a brand and you're going this direction, is knowing how do you make money from all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like in your guys' content, your new business that I'm super excited about this because I don't think I think somebody should have done this 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But with your new company, are you guys showing people not only how to post, but also how to make money from it?
Oh yeah. I have this thing called, I didn't invent it. It's from what's the book called? The Road Less Stupid. It's called Think Time. And Think Time is something I use to do internal reflecting. And essentially what you do is you set a certain amount of time, could be 20 minutes, could be 30 minutes, an hour, whatever you want to do, right? You go and get a notebook. Don't use your phone because you'll get distracted. And you ask yourself difficult questions. And so you write down a question, right? And for you just said it might have been, am I worshiping money?
Right.
And from there, you just start answering it like, well, let's make a list, okay? Does it look like I'm pursuing money in my activities? And then you start writing them down. Like, what does my day-to-day look like? Is that a reflection of the pursuit of money? Or, am I saying one thing, but I'm doing something else? And I've used this for the last 2 years. I have a notebook that's just full of questions that I'm internally reflecting on for myself. And sometimes they're for my business too, and just different problems we're having. And I say, okay, here's the problem. How can I solve this? And I'll just start writing every solution that could be an answer. And so many of my things that I've created have come from that, just taking the time to sit there and reflect and think. And I think most people never do that, period.
100%.
Most people, when they have downtime, they just decide to go watch TV,
Right.
to go on social media, to go just fill it with content or something, right? And that's the wrong thing. I spend so much time by myself, just thinking, probably more than, I don't know, you might call me a monk or something, but I sit there and I think, and I'm like, huh. And then I just get good ideas.
Well, that's where the answers are, man. I hired a meditation coach probably 3 years ago, and didn't take it really serious in the beginning. Didn't practice the way that I should have. So now I meditate twice a day, and I do transcendental meditation, so silent meditation, and it gives me space to think. We're running businesses and trying to perform every day at a very, very high level. And, your brain can get clogged, man. You can have a lot going on. Still time and self-reflection is super important. Had a conversation with a guy one day, and he says, hey, I talk to myself in the mirror. And I'm kind of like,
yeah,
okay.
That's weird.
Yeah. And he's like, no, he's like, seriously, man. He's like, I talk to myself every day in the mirror. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, about what, And he's like, listen, man. He says, if you can't confront yourself, what does that mean? Right. And he goes, I talk to myself on a daily basis. It's a checkpoint, where am I at with certain things? Am I holding myself accountable? Where am I falling short in my life, personally, professionally, all these different things. And at the end of the day, what people should take away from that is that's truly what makes us better performers and business owners at the, when it's all, kind of said and done.
Right. No, I haven't tried talking in the mirror, but I will say, I remember maybe 6 years ago now, I started doing a morning routine, and I started writing in a journal. And, I had heard people say positive affirmations, do this,
right,
do that, talk in the mirror. And I'm like, that stuff is so lame. I am not doing that. And then I started to think about it, and I was like, well, I always relate everything back to sports. I was like, I used to do that in sports, unknowingly. I'd be hyping myself up. I'm like, I'm about to mess this fool up, dude.
That pregame conversation?
Yeah, I'm this guy, I'm about to hit this home run. I'm visualizing it. I'm like, I'm about to do this, do that, and I'm going to make a sick play. And, I was doing positive affirmations through visualization. And, but to hear it as a journal or something different, I was like, nah, that's losers. That's what they do. And I realized, no, dude, that's very important. And so I've been journaling for the last 5 years. I haven't missed a day.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
I just journal. I write, things I'm grateful for. I write things I want to do that day. I don't necessarily write affirmations like, Ryan, you're the best. I still think that's kind of corny. But I do visualize like my day and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna crush it. Here's how it looks, and then I go do it because I've already seen it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and I think we got to have more of these conversations too, right? Where it's, a lot of times we get stuck in, just all business conversations, and it's not to be repetitive, but it's like I'm saying, right? It's like mindset, is the cornerstone, it's the backbone of what drives everything. My statement is always, we work out, we do all these different things, we exercise all these muscles and yada yada yada. But why are we not exercising the brain with the same intensity, with the same purpose?
Yeah.
And so I think that's definitely something that we all need to kind of really take away.
Dude, I couldn't agree with you more. I think about this all the time. Like, I truly feel that, I guess, my biggest competitive advantage is my brain, like you said. And, like, being able to, like, there's so many aspects to your brain that people don't think about. Like, okay, there's the actual knowledge of things right? And so I think about, for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I've been reading at least like 30 books a year, right? And I've gone through different seminars, coaches, everything. I've absorbed so much information the last 4 years that just my competition has not.
Right.
And so, like, when I go to draw to make a decision, I now have so much information to draw from and different perspectives of things. And I'm like, okay, like, and I know for a fact it's made my decision making so much more sound and logical because it's not emotion based. It's based on
there you go
experiences, right? So I mean, like, that's one aspect of like your brain and mindset. The other aspect is just dealing with stress and emotions. And so you see so many entrepreneurs who have so much struggle with anxiety and stress and anger and making just rash decisions. And I haven't had to deal with that as much because I think I take the time to actually like deal with my emotional health, like of like, yo, 5 o'clock, I'm checking out of the office, dude. I don't care what happens. Like, I'm done.
Right.
Because if my mind just always is on, like, dude, burnout.
Of course.
I'm done.
Yeah, I think one thing I like that you mentioned is perspective. It's important to understand that like life is based on perspective. Like everything is perspective. And most people, don't take time to, and I used to be this person, where we don't think through the different perspectives that are at play. And in our decision making and the realization, like you just mentioned, that thinking through and putting respect to like these different trains of thought, these different perspectives, that is what drives your decision making. That's what allows you to grow. That's what allows you to scale, because you're giving yourself some grace and patience to really kind of truly think things through.
Yeah, no, 100%. So for anyone listening, I would just highly encourage you guys to treat your mind as a muscle, like Chris said, but also like take it serious. Take this self-reflection time serious daily. Take your education seriously, because it'll make your decisions so much easier. Like, I'm 32, so I'm still young compared to most business people. So it's like for me to draw from experience is more difficult because I'm just younger. I haven't gone through things a lot of these guys have gone through. But if I can fast track that by gaining their knowledge through books, through mentorship, whatever, it gives me essentially all these years of wisdom that I didn't really have to actually go through.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. My dad growing up used to, my dad's military, he'd lock us in the room an hour a day and say, you got to read.
Dude, good dad.
Great dad. At the time.
You hated it.
Oh, bro, it was ridiculous. I thought it was insanity. And as I got older, I developed the habit of consistently reading.
Yeah.
And that was for me in college what helped me realize, before I, quasi dropped out, right? Was the real
We'll say you dropped out.
Right, let's say we dropped out for sure. So what happens is I'm constantly self-learning, I'm constantly reading.
Yeah.
And then you start to have the realization like, well, wait a second. All this information is stored in these books. Anything that I want to learn, anything that I want to figure out, it's located somewhere.
Yep.
What's the right text to find for it? Who's the best author that can speak to it? Get it and consume it. It's the same thing. Like, I don't know if you're this way, but YouTube, for example, man, it's like anything that I'm trying to figure out, if I don't know it from the beginning, I'm like, let me YouTube it and see if there's an instruction on YouTube on how to do.
Right.
I can't think of the last thing I tried to find on YouTube and learning how to do it, and it wasn't there.
Right.
You know, and things can kind of be that simple, but that takes time. And, you know, I do want to say, I think the people don't spend that time yet, and they haven't gotten to that point of growth in their businesses, or personal development really is what it is because generally speaking, we attach reaching the goal to the monetary outcome. So it's like, all right, have I made money from this or not?
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this. Is it going to return me back $1 or is it not going to? And these are the little things, you know, the reading the books, the journaling, the talking to yourself in the mirror, if that's your thing. You know, all things, by the way, that I also thought were corny at one point as well. You know, that's where you kind of draw your personal line in the sand. That's the extra work. You know, if you're somebody that's working a full-time job and, you know, you're watching clips on YouTube, you're in these Facebook groups or coaching programs, whatever the case might be. Look, you know, if you get off work at 5 o'clock, you've only got truthfully a couple hours a day to work on your business. You know, you got a family, I'm sure, you know, maybe children to take care of, these different things. So you're at a point of like true time maximization. Like, how can I take the time that I have? Maybe it's 5 to 8, 5 to 9. But you can't make phone calls after 9. You can't send text after 9.
Right.
So it's like, how can I truly maximize this time? Well, that time that you talked about earlier, you know, not watching TV, not watching movies, not going out to the bar, whatever that looks like that 9 to 1, 2 in the morning, like that's the place where your business is made. You know, that's the time where you're reading. That's the time where you're self-reflecting. That's the time where you're journaling, carving out the extra time past what just gives you the perspective that it's going to, hey, I'll do this and I'll make this for doing it.
Yeah. Or just wake up really early. You know?
Or just wake up super early.
Yeah, but either way, people can carve out the time.
Got to find the time
to do these things we're talking about. And you actually just made me realize something that I don't know that I've ever mentioned on the podcast after all these episodes, is that the things that you do on a daily basis, your habits, you don't get any money or value from them right away. And it's hard for people to do things that don't give them instant gratification, right? And so some good examples, right? Like when I first started making social media content, no TikTok followers, no YouTube, brand new podcast, whatever. I went into it knowing that, hey, I'm going to do this every day and there's not going to be a return. Like, I'm not going to make money from this immediately. Right. I'm going to actually spend a bunch of money and I'm going to put in so much time when in reality today I could be going and flipping some houses and going on seller appointments, things I know will give me a return right then and there.
Yep.
But I understood that if I stayed with it, even if it took years, the value would be there down the road, long term, monetarily and in other ways, right? And it worked out quicker than I thought. And it's just like getting through that hard part where everyone quits. Everyone quits because they're not getting a return and they just never get to the end. But like the other part where I've seen this is in everyone's daily habits. And so, you think about this with your marriage, take it for example, right? You work all these nights and everything else, and it's fine for a little bit. You don't notice anything, but, you do it, start doing it for years.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you're like, how did my wife and I become so distant? Well, it's like, yeah, you didn't see it, but over time, it just caused this rift. Same thing with eating bad, right? You don't work out, you don't eat right. Yeah, it's not going to affect you immediately, but over time, you're like, how did I gain 30 pounds?
For sure, yeah.
And, I think about all of these things that people do, whether it's drinking, whether it's smoking, whether it's, any of this crap that people do that we know is not good for you, eating sugar. You do it for an extended period of time, it will always catch up with you. But there's the flip side of it. The people that do the right things on a daily basis, like they don't necessarily reap the reward
right away. But guess what? 5 years down the line, they've been doing everything the right way. They've taken care of their body. They're reading their books. They're, spending time with their family. They're doing all these right things. 5 years later, everyone that was with them is so far behind. 100%.
Because of all and there's no way to catch up.
You're too far ahead.
You can't catch up. You cannot make up 5 years of neglect
right.
of one thing. And it's funny now because like we're getting older, dude. Like, it seems like every entrepreneur I talk to, they're like, yeah, you know, I'm getting on testosterone now. Like my T was T was low.
I've had that conversation with a bunch of people. They're telling me,
dude,
that. Yeah.
I hear it all the time. They're like my T's
going
low.
to specialized doctors and yeah.
I'm like, your T is low because you treat your body like crap. Like,
Right.
dude, what do you think? You eat like crap. You overwork. You're stressed. Yeah, I would guess your T's low.
Right.
It's not. I don't have to be a rocket scientist to get this. But guess what? If you just take care of yourself, your body levels and everything are going to regulate themselves.
Yeah.
Testosterone didn't exist, you know?
Right. Well,
All
you couldn't
these
go to
years-
specialized stuff.
Yeah.
Man, so that's a fair point, right? You know, so here's how I kind of, this is my perspective on that, all right? I have all these conversations and I think about what people are saying to me in different contexts. And it all falls to the same point, is we just don't like resistance, right? We as people do not like resistance. The realization, though, is that everything that you want is on the other side of the resistance. It's just simple. It's just like, am I willing to like push through this point without any immediate result? You know, like you're saying,
instant gratification.
Can I let that go? And we are in a space, and you know, just as society, where it's hard to turn away from this pursuit of instant gratification. I'd encourage everybody to do so. I didn't pay myself, man, my first 2 years of making money in real estate. I started really making money in 2010. I never took a dime out of my company until 2012.
Yeah.
And that took discipline that I didn't know that I had at that time.
Yep.
And it wasn't like some like master plan, like, hey,
Yep.
it was just simple. It's like, well, make $15 an hour right now. I live with my mom, right? What's the rush?
Right.
You know, I've started making some money. Do I really need to like immediately go buy a house or rent a brand new apartment or go buy a new car? No.
Yeah.
Because if I've been able to do this, like if I've been able to create this in 24 months in the same spot that I was at 24 months ago, well then, all right, how fast can this now compound and become more rapid?
Right.
And that's how we got to doing 40 deals a month, right? Or 40 deals a year was by having kind of those basis of kind of understanding, but there was a lot of resistance. But, you know, again, it's like if you hit resistance, can you work to the other side of it? That doesn't come from, you know, what I call copy and paste in the play. You know, it's like, again, comparisons to Thief of Joy. It's like, oh, I see Ryan's doing this. Let me go do the exact same thing or what I perceive to be the exact same thing. Well, if I haven't talked to you, man, I don't know if I'm doing exactly what you're doing or not, you know?
Right.
So kind of just starting to have those realizations, I think, is something that's really kind of important. It's been important for me. I think it's definitely important for other people to see as well.
Yeah. No, I love it. Well, dude, man, it's been a lot of fun talking to you. And I love talking about the mindset stuff and, you know, hearing what you're doing, a lot of the same beliefs and philosophies. So I'm super glad you came out, dude. Really appreciate it. The mission statement is helping entrepreneurs build their personal brand and business on social media. And the goal is to teach them not only how to get views, but turn those views into dollars. So
I think, so here's one of the biggest takeaways I took away from Grant's thing 3 months ago. He says, only 1% of my audience buys a product from me. 99% of people don't. And so you have to give them something to invest in other than a product. And I was like, what does that mean? And for me, it was watching him put these funds together, right? These big real estate funds. It's like, this is what I took from it. I go, 99% of your audience will never buy a product from you because they don't believe in themselves. It's not that they don't believe in Ryan Pineda or Pace Morby. It's they don't believe in themselves to take action on it. But when you put a Pineda fund together, what's your guys' fund called?
Pineda Capital.
So Pineda Capital.
Yep.
Now those 99% of people that don't necessarily trust themselves to go buy something to then have to take action,
Right.
they know that Pineda is going to make something happen.
Yeah.
And what Grant said was the people who invest in Cardone Capital or Pineda Capital, they go home and they pray for you to be successful. I was like, oh my gosh, this is, for people that don't understand why content is so important, it is the modern way to raise capital. So if you want to go buy $100 million in real estate, you have to, like this year we raised $68 million in private money. How do we do that? Not by cold calling people. Like
Yeah.
that's stuff that Wolf of Wall Street did 20, 30 years ago. It's now everything has to go through Instagram, YouTube, et cetera. And I tell people too, like if you don't have a YouTube, I don't think you're credible because I don't think YouTube can be hacked.
No, yeah, it's not like
Instagram can be hacked.
Yeah.
You look at somebody with 2 million followers on Instagram, you're like, nope. YouTube, I'm like verified.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, and that's the thing too, is I tell people this at Content Empire. I'm like, hey, so, not only is organic traffic going to be great for your business and all this stuff, but if you do start running paid traffic, it's going to amplify it so much because guess what? If nobody's ever heard of Pace Morby, what's the first thing they're going to do?
Google.
They're going to Google, they're going to look up, see if this guy's got any YouTube videos or anything. They're going to see, oh, dude, he's got 100,000 subs. He's doing these live streams. He's got like, okay, cool. I can get behind this guy. And by the time, they see your ad, they're good.
Yep.
So I just don't see a scenario in the world to come where you can get away with not making content because your competitor will, and then you're toast. Like
you're irresponsible is what you are. You're irresponsible. To me, I tell people, imagine McDonald's trying to sell a hamburger without a single golden arch on their building. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say I'm driving down the freeway from Nevada to Arizona.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hang out at Pineda's studio and I'm hungry. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for the golden arches. I know there's a hamburger I can go buy right there.
Right.
But if you're not branding yourself, you're not posting yourself, you're not doing anything, like how do I even know what you offer? How do I even know what you have for me to buy? I have no clue how to spend money with you.
Well, and the thing is too, this was something I took away from Grant too. He was like, hey, assume no one's ever seen your ad.
Yeah.
Right. And, I'm doing a big launch for my book coming out.
Yeah.
And,
When?
I'm like, December 13th.
Okay.
So I'm like talking about it every day right now. And it's funny because in my mind, I'm like, everybody's seen it. And then I'm like, you know what? No, they haven't.
They haven't, dude.
Everyone has not seen it. I'm just going to post it
They haven't
nonstop.
seen it. We have this big meetup going on with DJ Envy and the Breakfast Club on Thursday this week in New Jersey.
Okay.
I've been posting about it every 2 days. And I'm like, it's on my stories and I post it today. Like, I'm so excited about the meetup coming up on Thursday. And people are like, what meetup? I'm like, where have you been for 30 days?
Yeah.
The thing we forget as content creators is that we're on there every day I'm on Instagram probably every day for 15 to 45 minutes. Most people in your world, your audience, they're not on there every day. They might go on there
at all these other, you don't know what the algorithm's feeding them and, whatever. So yeah, I was like, all right, I'm just going to post it. But, long story short, I think that you just have to get over it and just constantly be marketing because McDonald's could not just quit marketing today, even though they've established such a great brand, right? And all of a sudden people they're not going to lose market share. They will. Like if you don't stay top of mind, no matter how successful you've been in the long run, it doesn't matter.
That's scary to think that even McDonald's, if they stop marketing, would lose market share. They're the king. Everybody knows McDonald's.
Yep. They would lose market share.
And the people that say, oh, well, I don't see a billboard and go buy a hamburger. Yes, you do. You just don't know you do.
Right.
And it's the same thing with anything, right? If you're a real estate investor and you're trying to raise capital, guess what's going to happen? Beardy Brandon, good friend of both of ours, Beardy Brandon's ad on Instagram is going to push that accredited investor over to his fund versus ours.
Yeah, because he was top of mind.
Top of mind.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with just every business in general. It's I was actually thinking about this the other day. We were just watching the Netflix before this with Zac Efron.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was thinking, man, where has Zac Efron been? He's got
he
this
took
weird...
he pieced out for 2 years or something.
Yeah, I'm like, his face looks totally different. Everything about him's different. And where's he been? And the fact was, I hadn't thought about Zac Efron for 2 years because he just wasn't out there. And he's a mega A-list celebrity. And you see celebrities like that who all of a sudden they re-show up in a movie. I was watching Netflix again the other day and I saw Lindsay Lohan was in a movie. And I was like, Lindsay Lohan, where has she been? But to the point, when you don't stay top of mind, it does not matter how relevant you are or how famous you are at that very moment. It will go away.
It will go away. And I think the other thing that people really want to consume is they want to consume a product that they actually feel like they're a part of, right? Versus oh, I saw McDonald's and I saw their ad. They want to feel like they're part of your world, right? They want to know your wife, your kids, et cetera. They trust you, all those types of things. So people that are out there, I don't care who you are. If you're an insurance agent, you're a a bicycle repairman, I don't care what it is, creating funny content or along the lines of whatever it is you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Same thing with video guys. Like our video guys that they used to work on side projects. Now they're full-time with us, but they talk about filming with us and all of a sudden they're overwhelmed. They're getting calls from Lenovo and HP and like, hey, we saw you on Pace's Instagram. Do you want to come do an HP thing? We'll pay you $12,000. He's like, dude, how did I get so lucky? I'm like, you didn't get lucky. You just put yourself out there. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. What's your ultimate goal? Is your ultimate goal like to have a net worth of $100 million or more?
No.
Or does that even matter to you, that number? Or what is it about being risky that you like?
I think I'm risky because I don't care about the money. That's what I think it is. I think most people are so like, man, I got to preserve my cash. I've worked hard and my wealth. Whereas I'm like, I don't even care. Like, it's literally just a digit to me, which at the end of the day, with how the U.S. is printing money, it kind of just is. And I'm just like, to me, it's all a game. It's like Clash of Clans, man. It's like,
Sure, but let's say you went to zero today. I mean, I know that you, with all your skills right now, you can make that back, right? You can make money again.
that's how I look at it.
Starting from day one, but would that make you uncomfortable having zero today, not being able to make a payment, on something next month?
I think I'm so creative that I would find a way to, I'd find the next best thing going forward. Like if everything got lost today, I'd be like, all right, what are we doing now? I'm like the eternal optimist on everything.
Got it.
And even with, the real estate and stuff, I have absolutely no problem selling everything I own. I don't care. If I had to sell my Tesla, if I had to sell my house, if I had to sell, everything, I would sell it tomorrow.
So here's a question. If everybody had your mindset, do you think that would serve them, that would benefit them? So like, let's say, you get someone in the Future Flipper course. If they had a riskier mindset or an eternally optimistic mindset, because that's something pretty rare. Not many people have the eternally optimistic mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can impart one part of yourself onto, let's say, a flipper,
right,
who's just starting out today, is that what you would impart on them? The mindset.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think, especially when it comes to flipping, there's always, the reason people don't get started is paralysis by analysis. Like they just literally, they think about everything that can go wrong.
Sure.
And they take no action. And I just know for me, it's like, dude, if I thought about everything that could go wrong and all of my things I've got going on, oh my gosh, I'd have a list to cover this whole room. So I don't even think about them.
So you just don't think, you execute. And then when you run into a problem or a bridge, you're like, okay, how do I solve this? Right.
Exactly.
And you execute on that and you keep going, you keep going.
Exactly.
I think it's kind of the same with making content, to be honest. Sometimes I get stuck in analysis paralysis on YouTube. I'm like, oh man, should I make this video or should I make this video? But I would just be better served if I just made one video, learn from it, make the next video better.
That's what I do. I'm just like, all right, what are we making this week?
Okay.
This is something we're working on, because this is a problem. It's gotten me to this point, but here's the thing with all business is like, you can do things a certain way to a certain point, and then you hit your ceiling.
You hit a little plateau.
Yeah, which is where I'm at right now. And so I'm like, all right, we're at our plateau. Like, what are we going to do? Let's, we got to change things up. And that's literally every business I own has always gone through these growth, the plateau, the growth, the plateau. And in order to keep growing, you have to change. You hit the plateau. You cannot just be like, oh, it'll work itself out. No. Doesn't do
Okay,
that.
so you recognize that, like, okay, that maybe some of your stuff is hitting a plateau, and like now you're thinking about, okay, how do I grow it next, right? And that's where the optimistic mindset comes into play too.
Yeah, I mean, there's always problems. Here's the deal: you get paid to solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And so, think about like the video game apps. Okay, you said, the company you work for was top of the thing, number one, right?
Yep.
Now they don't even have a game.
Correct.
Like apps are just always like that. It's like, you're the hot app for as long as possible, but it is not long term. So you better be coming out with a new, game or something.
Yep.
Always.
Like Fortnite knows in 10 years, kids aren't going to be playing Fortnite. They're going to be playing something different.
And they're already planning for that. You just accept it.
Right.
And I see that with content like we're talking about. Like our content has got us to where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually people are just going to get tired of it. It's like, damn, like how many skits can I see from Humphrey? Like it is.
Yeah, I'm already seeing that. So if you're watching, go like my videos. I need more likes.
We need more likes. Like the skits.
Like the skits.
But you're gonna try something new, and it's gonna work. And people are like, dang, like that's cool. And then you'll throw the skits in here or there, and those are gonna be like the flashbacks.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, those are cool. And then they become trending again. They're like, dang, nobody does skits anymore. And then you bring them back.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm thinking on the content side, where, what can we do that's different to kind of revitalize it? What can we do to get in front of, a new audience who doesn't know us yet? You actually gave me a really good tip that I'm going to start implementing.
Subscribe.
Yeah. Tell me about that so everyone else can know. This helped you.
Yeah, so this one helped me if you have a YouTube channel, but I learned it from Dream, which is a popular video game creator. But at the beginning of every one of Dream's videos, he just says, hey, a large percentage of you guys are watching me, but you're not subscribed. So please subscribe, and you can always change your mind. And he usually says it, for Dream, he usually says it in the first 15 seconds.
Well, the other part you mentioned too, hey, make sure please subscribe. It's totally free.
It's free.
If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe.
That's right. That's the thing is, a lot of people, especially older people that are watching YouTube, they don't know what the subscribe button does. They're afraid if they click subscribe that they're going to be, they're tricked into some $9.99.
They are subscribing to a monthly service.
Exactly. And that I think they should really change that wording on subscriptions for YouTube, because that would
just make it follow, just like everyone else.
Exactly. And so that's something I learned from Dream, and I just straight up took it from him.
Shout out to Dream.
I don't think he'd be watching this, but if he does watch it, shout out to him. But
yeah. No, and I thought that was so cool because you told me after you did that, you saw your subscriber count spike.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I never even do in my videos. Like at the very end,
yeah.
I'm just, and who actually makes it to the end, right?
About 20% of your viewers, maybe,
exactly.
Right? 20,
so
30%.
I've never given them a call to action. And you watch other YouTubers, they're all always asking, hey, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe. And that could be another reason I've plateaued, is because I'm just not being aggressive enough.
For me, I didn't want to come across as too salesy with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I really liked the phrase that Dream came up with, because it's kind of like no pressure. It's like, hey, it's free. You can change your mind whenever you want. And, it helps me out. It's kind of nice that way.
Well, the thing too that blew my mind what you said was, so many people say, hey, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. But I never even thought that people could think it costs them money. But it makes perfect sense that, what subscription is free? There's no free subscriptions these days. Everything, $9.99.
Exactly.
And it's like, there probably are a lot of people who think if they subscribe, they have to pay me.
That's correct.
The way we're wired, like you said, high performers want to accomplish the next task.
What's next?
But just thinking about that too, like what's the bigger purpose of what you're doing, right? And that's something I've had to think about a lot as, my career has continued to evolve, and I'm like, man, okay, what's the point of starting another business?
Right.
What's the point of buying more real estate? What's the point of making another video, filming another podcast, right?
Isn't that so funny that you go from like, I need to start another business. I need to buy more real estate. How do I do that? I don't have the secrets. I don't know what I'm doing, to now you're at a point where you go, what's the point of it? So have you figured out the answer?
Yeah. And I actually had, and I've kind of like been navigating the answer and,
figuring it out along the way.
Well, a lot of praying about it, but like, it comes down to so many people have like 5-year plans or whatever goals, right? And they'll say, I want to be a billionaire. I want to be a millionaire, whatever, right? And every time I hear that, I go, why? And, they're just like, well, it's just a goal. And I'm like, that's dumb. Like, what's the reason behind the goal? Because if the goal is to just make X amount of passive income, or like, really, like, what's the true meaning behind why you want to do that? Is it because you want to spend more time with your family? Okay, like that's good. Like I want to know why 20,000 a month is a significant number. Why is being a billionaire a significant thing? And so I've never had a goal like that, literally. And up to this point, I've never cared about what my net worth was. I've never cared for passive income. I've never cared for a certain income level, a certain amount of followers. It's just been like, we would set goals because we have to in a business.
Well,
and
your team needs to know them.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, like this year, let's go for that. Let's go for that. But if you were to ask me, what's the 5-year goal? There is none. And I think it was kind of me just being open to everything of just like, hey, let me just see where God leads me. And that's where I'm going to go. And at this point now, it's a lot more clear. And I had my business coach, Gary Harper, come and sit down with us.
He's a legend. I was just texting him a couple of days ago.
Yep, like 10 days ago. He's in the Tykes boardroom as well. And, you know, he came to my office for 2 days. He's coming back in December to double check that we're executing everything. But, you know, like one of the things was just defining like my purpose and the company's purpose overall and figuring out where are we going in 5 years? Like now that we know what we know, where things stand today, he's like, it's pretty obvious where you're going. He's like, I'll give you my perspective on it as somebody who's watched you for many years. And I see what's, you know, motivates you and drives you. And he's like, look, you know, you're just purpose driven. You don't necessarily care too much about the money, but you know, money is, you know, something that's needed to go solve the purpose. Right. And so for me, I'm passionate about, you know, Christian, you know, just different ventures, whether it's funding churches, whether it's helping Christian entrepreneurs, because they don't really have anyone else to look up to. Right. Whether it's, you know, serving other people just like you, having that servant mentality. I know that like for me, I need money to do all those things. And I know that I have influence to go affect the entrepreneurs. Right. And, you know, make a change. Cause like who else will? And in at least that niche. Nobody. Right? There's not many people. And so it's like, if God's given me that ability, then I would be disobedient not doing it. To the point of you said, who are you to have all those skills? How dare you? Yeah. Right. And that's how I look at it. Of like, if I just go chill and do nothing and don't maximize the skills and the opportunity that I have, like, how dare me? Well, I think, so humans get incredibly entitled fast, right? So here's what happens. Like people, it happens in the employee world where you'll hire an employee and they'll go, I'll work for you for free. Well, first off, nobody's working for me for free. You're getting paid. But that's the mentality. Then you work for me. And in 2 months, you haven't done deals or you haven't done whatever, you show up late or whatever it is. It's like, you were the guy that was begging me for an opportunity. Now you're the guy that's taking other people's lunches out of the fridge in the cafeteria. Other people's opportunities. And you're showing up late, right? Same thing goes for you and I. Maybe it was when you were couch flipping and it was the only skill set you had besides baseball. Yep. Maybe for me, it was when I was a contractor, literally praying and saying, please help me find an opportunity. Please help me find somebody that's going to help me. And then what happens, you get sucked into that world and the busyness of the world blinds you to the fact that you used to pray for the exact situation you're sitting in right now. And now you've made it and you're like, what's the purpose? Well, obviously the purpose is to go find another 1,000 Ryans that need everything that you have, but take that learning curve from 10 years down to a year or 2 years. Exactly. Right. And do that for people that have like-minded values, family-oriented, Christian values, that type of stuff. It sounds like that's your purpose. Yeah, it is. And it's not like I won't help non-Christians or anything. Right, but there's something that ignites your fire. Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, and I think too, it's like, and I was just thinking about this for a long time of like, man, do I want to be, you know, just like this Christian influencer and like go down that route? Or do I just want to continue to be an entrepreneur who happens to be Christian, right? And that is the route that I've chosen, but it may not be the route 5 years from now. Like, I don't know, right? You have to let it evolve. Yeah, it will evolve however it evolves. But, you know, that's part of the story, right? Because you and I, you starting out as a contractor, me starting out as a baseball player and then a couch flipper, you know, we both become these real estate guys. And then you go into this vertical of sub 2 and seller finance. I kind of stay in this vertical of house flipping and social media. And then, you know, now you're coming over to that side of social media and TV. And then now I'm coming into the entrepreneur side and like, you know, embracing that aspect of it. Right. It's just like, it's just going to keep evolving. Like it's super hard to say where we'll be 5 years from now. But I think that the purpose of what drives us, you know, if I have to become a whatever guy to serve the bigger purpose of what I want to do, then I'll do it. Like I never wanted to be a social media guy. Like I wasn't on Instagram 10 years ago. Like I did it because I was like, this is what I have to do.
This is the keys to make this work. Yeah, for me, somebody asked me the other day, why are you posting so much? And I go, I'm posting so much so I can get so loud that the 10-year ago version of me can hear me. Like I'm trying to yell so loud at my earlier version of myself, like, bro, shake out of it. There's better ways to make money. There's better relationships to have. I was in bad relationships. You know, I've never drank, I've never smoked. I'm not a partying guy. That's not what I mean by bad relationships or bad environments. I was around people that didn't have the same values as me. And as a contractor, I was taught chase money, chase the bigger job, chase. And I was in bad relationship with people that are running schemes and they ended up filing bankruptcy. I lost a bunch of money. And I'm like, man, I just spent 8 years of my life chasing money, not acquiring skills and building relationships.
But to your point, what's interesting, and this has happened for me too, is when you actually start doing something that you're passionate about and your purpose, a lot of times the money just flows naturally.
Bro,
and so like
it sounds cliche when you hear it, when you don't know that is actually the fruits of the labor, and you've never seen that happen.
Well, I've asked you this before too. I'm like, Pace, how the heck we were talking about this. I forget what event we were at. Oh, we were at Growth Video Live, remember? And we were sitting in the back and I was like, Pace, how many hours do you spend like on Facebook Lives and stuff? And you said something crazy to me. It was like 20, 30 hours a week or something.
Yeah, I spend 20 to 30 hours a week on Zoom with my students.
Yeah. And I was like, how do you spend 20 to 30 hours a week?
On top of the TV show, on top of all the businesses we own.
But like the point was, you don't do that because you think it's going to make you more money.
No.
Like you do it because you genuinely love doing it.
Yeah.
And you want to help them. And you literally want to do everything humanly possible for them to win.
Yeah, it keeps me involved in their lives. I know the majority of my students' names, their spouses' names, their kids' names, because I just want to. I don't know why.
Yeah, and
it keeps me from making money if you really think about it.
yeah, you could probably make more money if you.
I would make way more money. There's like calls I miss. I look at my phone when I'm out of a 6-hour Zoom with my students. I'm like, I miss Brad Lee's call. He wants to do a thing. I miss this. I miss this. I miss this. I'm like, okay, well, I'll call them back. And then I never get to call them back because the next morning I'm doing a Zoom at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Like I did a Zoom this morning at 5 a.m. before I flew out here. I was like, oh, Sunday morning, let me get with all my students and do a 4-hour Zoom before I'm supposed to fly out to Miami and hang out with Grant.
Yeah. But to the point, you do it because of your purpose and you love doing it, right? If you didn't love doing it, you wouldn't do it.
No, and
nobody forces you to do it.
It would show up as me not wanting to. It would show up as disingenuous. And then more importantly, like you said, I would literally just not do it.
Well, but even if you were to go to everyone and say, hey guys, I'm just kind of like at this new point in my life, I'm going to be spending less time, but still a lot.
Yeah.
Like people would still be like, I get it. Like,
yeah, go down from 30 hours to 10.
Yeah, like it's okay.
We'll be fine.
Yeah. Nobody's going to be mad at you for, wanting to do that. But the point is, if you just love what you do, you will do it. And it's like, for me, these guys will tell you, I've never missed a week of filming because I'm just like, yo, these are the videos that got to go out.
Right.
It's not that I know I'm going to make all this money when I make the video. I'm just like, these have to go out for the purpose of what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, man. Once you're like more clearly defined on your purpose, it makes things easier. I was thinking about this just in general with retirement and working and things like that. Somebody might take what I just said and said, man, well, I don't want to do that then. If I have to constantly stay top of mind, like there's no end to it. And the reality is we're kind of fed this lie that, hey, you can work really hard and then, get enough passive income and you can retire. And it's like, no, there's not really that thing of passive income. There's always like maintenance to a degree of there's basically how passive is it?
Yeah, I don't think it really is passive. And then here's the other thing I've realized. Somebody who was able to create the passive income that they desired, 10 grand, 20 grand, $30,000, that type of person that hits that number is a performer. And so what happens, they're somebody who achieves things. They get to 30,000 a month in passive income and they go, okay, what's next? Mm-hmm. I don't know anybody that just hits $30,000 and goes, okay, I don't have a new goal or I don't have a new thing to.
Yeah.
God did not put you on this earth to learn how to make $30,000 passive income and then just chill.
No.
You acquired skills, confidence, relationships, resources, and all these things along the way to get to that 30,000.
Yeah.
That now what, you're just going to hold to yourself and be selfish?
Well, I've said this a lot. As a Christian, nowhere in the Bible does it ever say to retire. It's not, you will not find it anywhere.
Interesting.
Like you listen to any of the disciples, any of the people who are following Jesus, they all were preaching and going out there discipling until they died.
Right.
Like, and they're actually killed. Right. So like they're killed for their job of just going out there. Nobody like did enough, got to their level of like, yep, you know, I planted this many churches, I'm good. And then they just retired. It doesn't exist.
It was a lie that was fed to me too. Like when I was 23, 24, people would tell me, once you hit $10,000 a month in passive income, you'll never want to work again. $10,000 a month? Really?
It doesn't get you that far.
It does not get you far at all. In fact, I think 20,000 is the new 10,000, right? There were people like, I want to hit six figures.
I just had Brad Lee on and he said, we were talking about that 20,000 mark kind of being like where you can actually start really living.
Yeah.
But he
I
was
agree
like,
with that.
When I was growing up, everyone wanted to be a millionaire. And he's like, being a millionaire ain't all that anymore.
No.
And he's like, the way that I envision a millionaire, a super rich person is like, you better be a billionaire. That's what Brad was saying.
Yeah.
And he's like, but in like the practical side of things, you better be worth at least 10 million, like
right.
to really be wealthy.
Right. And I think also going along with Christian values, right? Like Jesus didn't just go to people and help them and say, okay, keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Like Jesus came to people, helped them, mended their situation, gave them a parable, a story, whatever the thing was, and then said, go tell everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So your job isn't to just get to a point and then chill. Your job is to get to a point where you are going to retire. But what you're going to do is you're going to retire. Let's say you hit 20,000 or 30,000 a month in passive. You will retire from the worry of how to pay your bills.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, it's like, now the real work really begins.
Mm-hmm.
How do you change or actually create real change in other people's lives other than just your own?
Yeah. And I guess my point with it is like, even once you get to that 30,000, there is still work into making sure that still makes you 30,000.
Bro, this is what happened. I got to a point where our passive income was over $20,000. And then I go, wait, this isn't very passive. I need to hire like 3 more people to manage this $20,000 passive.
Yeah, now it's 10.
Now it's 10.
Yeah.
And so what I learned is I was like, okay, I need to actually get to like 100,000 to be to a point where I'm at 60, 70,000 because you have to have a team of people for it to truly be 95% passive.
Mm-hmm.
And even then you still have to have meetings every week. What's going on? Hey, Pace, we have an eviction that's taking 4 months. What do you want to do? Should we file a lawsuit? Blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff never ends.
Yeah.
Never ends. So if people that are like, well, I just want to own real estate, guys, does not matter. It's always going to be happening.
You know, the market today, right? All these people that were banking on passive income with stocks or crypto or even real estate. And, you know, the market just goes into a frenzy everywhere, right? Businesses, you know, laying people off and all this stuff. And it's like, no matter what. And I know that you've experienced this. Like for me, it's just like, dude, the more things we got going on, the more problems we have, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, how are we going to solve this problem now? All right, this investment looks like crap now. This business sucks
that was something
now. Like, what are we doing?
I learned from guys like you. I learned from other guys ahead of us. You actually you go from saying, I want to get rid of all my problems to now you get to a point where I want to solve bigger problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complete different paradigm, right?
Yeah.
Complete different paradigm is you are now seeking out much larger problems to get much larger checks.
Yeah.
For me, what happened to me this year is we have a little over 30 Airbnbs in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. Atlanta, Georgia got hammered.
Why do you have?
I just have a big student base there and I buy probably 60% of my deals in Atlanta from my students because they're just so active there.
Got it.
Ton of sub 2 deals in Atlanta and seller finance deals.
Okay.
And I've got a 500 unit multifamily that we're closing this month there as well. My biggest deal ever, $109 million deal.
Wow.
That's a big deal. So Atlanta changes their laws on Airbnbs. You can only have 1 property per license. Bro, it changed my business. My business overnight, we had to hire a full-time person just to convert our Airbnbs into midterm rentals, and some of them sober living, because we couldn't handle too many midterm rentals on the market all at the same time. That happens in like a week.
Yeah.
A week.
It's crazy.
So the whole market will change. And so people that believe nothing's going to change, I'm going to get my 20,000 and I'm going to chill and like be on a beach, that does not exist.
No.
And my thing back to those people is, how dare you? Like, for me, I look at those people and go, you acquired resources, relationships, skills, money, and all this stuff, and you're going to go chill on a beach?
Mm-hmm.
Think about the hundreds of people that could, in your own church or other places, that you could hire people, you could improve other people's lives. It is your responsibility to do more, is my thing.
No, I'm with you 100%.
People don't understand because they don't like fully know you. Like, you always have an optimistic mindset, where I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs that I meet, they're kind of pessimistic, where they're like, I don't want to spend money on marketing because what if it doesn't work? Or like, I don't want to hire an assistant because what if they go start their own flipping business? Like, everything is always a problem. We'll tell them to do something, and then they just tell us the problem with the advice that we're giving. And we have some friends who struggle with that also. Mm-hmm. So like, how does someone come out of that or realize that they're doing that to themselves?
Well, yeah, I think when you just brought that up, I've never thought about how something's not going to work. I always think, how do I make this work? Mm-hmm. It's the same problem. We're both looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
But one person is saying, man, here's everything that could go wrong. There's no way it works. And then there's another person saying, here's all the hurdles we need to overcome to make it work. Mm-hmm. They're two totally different ways of looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
And so when I look at it, if I launch a new business or something, I'm like, okay, here's all the hurdles that I'm going to encounter. I already know, like, I don't like not acknowledge the problems.
Yeah.
They're there, but I have to solve these in order for this to work. How can it work? So I think shifting your mindset into how do I make something happen is number one. Number two is just, at the end of the day, right? If you're not happy with where your life is today, whatever you do is not right.
Yeah.
Like, you have to acknowledge that if you had, like, you wouldn't be, okay, if you're going to Future Flipper, you wouldn't hire us if your business was exactly where you want it to be, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to hire any mentor, a coach, or a strength coach, why are you hiring a nutritionist or a strength coach? It's because you're not where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm in good shape, but I know if I were to go hire a nutritionist and a strength coach, it's because I'm trying to get into like elite shape.
Yeah.
Shredded, everything. Mm-hmm. So I think you just need to like take people's advice who have already done it, and like, especially if you're hiring them or paying them. So that's number two. You got to humble yourself. And then number three, I think it all comes back down to faith. That's really the root cause of why I am the way I am. But number three is, you have to be willing to submit to somebody else's authority. And for me, I submit to what God tells me to do. I read my Bible. If I feel like God's calling me to do something, I submit and I do it. I don't ever say, hey, what does Ryan want to do? I used to do that when I was playing baseball. It was all about me. Mm-hmm. I want to get to the big leagues. I want to do this. I. Mm-hmm. But then it became, man, okay, there's actually a better path when I just submit to God's will and have him direct me and show me what's the best path. I didn't want to do real estate. I didn't want to do social media. I didn't want to make podcasts. I didn't want to do any of this stuff. But I was submissive to what God called me to do. And look what has happened from me being submissive, right?
Yeah.
And so my wife's the same way, because at the end of the day, she submits to God. She submits to me. I submit to her too. Yeah. Right. It's a mutually submissive thing. And that's what makes a good marriage too, where it's not like, I do this, I want you to do that. It's like, hey, I'm going to do this because I want to honor you and submit to you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same thing I try to do with my employees. If you come to me with a problem or something, I'll say, okay, how do I solve this and like be as courteous to you and submission? I just did that text to somebody.
Yeah.
Right before this, I tried to do it in a way where I'm like, look, she's not happy. How do I fix this?
Yeah.
So there's that. So I think it all comes back down to submission. And look, if you're trying to get mentorship from somebody, and you truly believe they're like the right person to mentor you, and like you've done your back, like if I tell you to jump, jump.
Yeah, just do it.
Don't even question it.
Yeah.
Don't ask why. Like, and that's the number one thing that annoys me more than anything is when people, I'm like, okay, you just asked me for this advice. Great. Okay, cool. I'm going to give it to you. And then they're like, but like to your point,
Yeah.
what if this doesn't happen? What if that? I'm like, but did you just hear what I said?
Yeah.
Why are you asking me these? Why are you wasting my time?
Yeah.
Just do what I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Submit.
Yeah. And I think another thing I've learned from you and that I see with a lot of entrepreneurs, students, investors is like the time from idea to execution can take forever. And I love our boy Joseph, so we gave him an award. We gave him an award at the Future Flipper event, but he's going to make $1 million this year. So he's not doing bad at all. But I've told him things like, hire someone. It'll take him months to do it, literal months. And then he'll do it and he's like, all right, they're actually doing good. And I'm like, all right, dude, now hire a TC. But what if I don't have enough for them to do? And then, 2 weeks later, dude, I have 11 files. It's like, I thought you didn't have enough for them to do. Like, I know I told you to hire them for a reason, bro. I know you have stuff to do. And then, they'll think about it for a few months and then maybe they'll do it.
Right.
Where with you, you're like, hey, dude, I'm going to start doing social media on Monday.
We're doing this.
Yeah. I'm going to post 3 times. And I'm like, are you sure? Yeah, trust me. I'm going to post as soon as I get home from the gym.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to post when I get to the office. And then I'm going to post at lunch, where some other people are like, oh, I'm going to start posting on social media. I'm going to buy a camera. I don't know what camera I'm going to buy, so I'll figure that out later. And then they just never end up doing anything.
I just couldn't find the right camera.
I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out which mics to use.
Well, by the time this launches, Content Empire will have already been revealed.
Yeah.
Like, how quickly did we get Content Empire built?
In like 2 weeks.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be, like, I believe, one of the fastest companies to 7 figures.
Yeah.
And, it was an idea that I had for a while, right? I'm like, dude, one day I will teach people how to do social media and do what I do and draw traffic to their business and all that stuff. But once again, if I was worried about the money and I just wanted to make money however I could, I would have did it a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I never felt like the timing was right from God, right? Because for me, what happens is I get super inspired and I just go full force and I'm like, there's no way I fail. Like, I'm going to kill it because I can feel internally like God leading me to do it. And so I never had that feeling with Content Empire or anything up until a few weeks ago when finally 2 people that are Christian guys told me. First was my producer, Justin Barry. He was like, dude, we need to do something with content. Like, it's time, and I'm like, you feel that way? And he's like, yeah, it's time. I'm like, okay. And I thought about it. And then you came to me and you said something about like, what's next?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think I have something that's next that I've been thinking about, but I just didn't know when. And then I told you about it and you're like, okay, when can we start?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we've got the event coming up this week. So, we got to focus on that. But I was like, I'm going to work in the background and get it all set up.
Yeah.
And I wrote the business plan in one day. I figured out the name. I got the logos. I started getting the website built. I wrote the entire website copywriting.
Yeah.
I built out the VSL. I built it all within 2 weeks. I filmed everything. I was done. And then because it was filmed and everything was done, I didn't plan to launch it until a couple of weeks because we had the event and everything, but we were able to just throw it at the event too because I was done and it made 6 figures at the event.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've thought about this concept a lot with retirement, and I see a lot of people saying, well, I want to retire early so I can travel the world and do this. And, as long as I make whatever, $5,000 a month in passive income, $10,000 a month in passive income, I'm good. I'll live off that forever and I'm chilling. And I hear that and I'm like, man, for one, I don't want to live that life because 10,000 ain't as much as you think it is, for one. And getting 10,000 in FI is tough, right? But two, I'd get bored, dude. I'm not trying to go travel the world, like maybe for a period of time, but definitely not the rest of my life. And three, it's just kind of a waste of my talent and abilities that God has given me if I just am like, all right, I'm out, just doing my thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think just reaching FI is really cutting yourself short and almost like not taking advantage of those talents that you were given. So I completely agree. If you just get FI, then, I mean, you're cutting yourself short, because if you reached FI, I know that you can go past that, and you just have to keep doing what you're doing and adding to it. I was at a dinner in Georgia the other day, and one of our business partners was like, man, Felipe, you're closing on deals all the time. When is enough enough? And I get what kind of trap he was trying to put me in, right? He was like, are you being greedy or whatever? And I told him, I was like, man, if I want to give right, give often, and die broke, then I'm not like continuously working. I'm just building for systems to be able to plug and play. Earlier, we were talking about just, reaching FI and the homes that we did it with. I always tell my mentees, I want the least amount of properties with the most amount of cash flow. That doesn't give me like just a certain amount of houses. Like I can have 100 homes if that's what it's going to take, but I just want to maximize every single one and use the abilities that God's given me to benefit others if I can as well. And like you said, just reaching FI for myself is selfish, because it's just me, and it's like, okay, everyone else is, screwed, but I have the talents to help other people.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, my mentor gave it to me like this. He said, Felipe, you can't help no one if you're not rich. And it's true, because even on an airplane, you put your mask on first. He goes, if you want to help people, you got to get to that point.
Yeah.
Right. Where you can put your mask on, you're taken care of, and now you can bless other people. Now, rich is obviously, different for different people and where you live. Anyone can start helping now. But if you really want to make an impact, it takes money.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
does.
Well, and like you said, too, you got to be taking care of yourself, right?
Sure.
If your body is broken and, you're not healthy, how are you going to expect to go help people at a massive level? So there's even more to it than just money, right? And it's funny because Christian, one of your partners here, asked me that at golf yesterday. Not as like a leading question, but maybe just out of pure curiosity of like, when's enough enough? And, people have asked me this many times, and I'm like, dude, probably never.
Yeah.
I
agree.
I don't do it for just like this goal of having more money or more FI or whatever. Like, dude, I was very happy when I was flipping couches. I wanted more. I always wanted to like achieve more, but financially, man, I had a great house, man, 1,500 square foot house. Me and my wife, we were doing good. I was super proud of where we were at. And I would have never imagined, whatever, we're on our 8th year of marriage, that we'd be where we're at today. There's no way you could have told me that in 8 years we'd be where we're at. And it's just like, I'm playing with house money at this point. Like, dude, I'm good. I know that even if I tried to not do anything else to this point and just basically coasted. It's like better than anything I would have ever imagined. But that's just boring.
Yeah.
It's a waste.
It's a waste of your talent, and you're obviously put on this earth for a lot more, and it's like not doing anyone favor for you to just coast.
Yeah.
Because there's how many people could you have helped? And I mean, a lot of your listeners will probably know the story in the Bible, but one day you're going to be asked to give, your tokens. I gave you something. What'd you do with it? Did you just hide it?
Yeah.
Or did you give back? So that's huge on my heart all the time as well. It's like, what I know, I have to give it back, which is why we have Rat Race to FI.
Yeah.
Because we want to be able to help others reach that financial independence and then, be able to live those lives that they want.
Right. Yeah, I think back to the Bible verse where Paul is talking about how he's running the race literally until he dies. Like he's just running the race nonstop, and he'll take a break when he dies because, our time on this earth is super limited in comparison to eternity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, man, am I really that lazy that I can't spend this limited time on earth, like working and doing whatever it takes to, bring God glory, to use my talents the best way possible, to help other people, to take care of my family, to leave a legacy, to like do all these things in such a very short amount of time that I have. And I
Right.
think people just maybe think they have longer than they anticipate. And so they procrastinate or they, whatever.
So I also have a podcast, so I had a question or two for you as well, if that's cool. If not,
Yeah.
your editor can cut it out.
It will be in.
So we had a conversation on the golf course, and it's important to me. I've asked you two things quite a bit. I've asked you about how to keep up with your tithes, because that's something that's hard for us on our end.
Right.
But the second one was, and I asked you yesterday, I was like, how do you and your wife, Mindy, like, how do you coordinate with time? Because, like, we talk a lot about helping others, giving back, but we're also, given the responsibility of our wives. So how do you give her the time plus everything else that you do and everyone that's tugging at Ryan Pineda? How do you make sure that, your spouse has that time that she deserves?
Yeah. So to answer your first question about tithing,
And I've asked you that before. So.
yeah, somebody else on the golf course asked me that too. Been randomly doing these golf with Ryan dates that have been a hit. So I don't even really advertise it that much, but
You should. It's fun. I
Yeah.
had a great time.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, definitely go hit some golf with Ryan.
Yeah, we don't even have a product page for anything. So I guess just DM me on Instagram if you want to golf with me. There's different things we do. But he asked me the same thing. He goes, how do you tithe with all these businesses and everything? I go, for me, since I have my own tax company, I get a statement around the 10th of the following month of kind of what all the businesses did the previous month and what the net was and everything else. And I'll just tithe based on that net amount for, however well we did in
Right.
business. And, it just keeps it simple, just one time a month. It's accurate. I don't have to guess. It's like, this is the number, so like, let's go on that. So
Interesting.
that's how I do the tithe. As far as time with Mindy and just family and everything like that, you were asking me because we golfed on Labor Day. You're like, how'd you get out here on Labor Day?
And then I saw her post on Instagram.
I know. So
That was great.
she's funny. She'll dog me. She don't care. It's fun. But even like, so we went golfing. We had fun. And then I took her out, after that to a nice dinner.
Oh, okay.
And, we had a good time. Somebody else asked me that too last Friday because they were like, dude, I saw you worked out this morning. You did some business stuff, then you golfed with us, and then now you're about to go and, go have date night with your wife. Like, do you ever stop? And I'm like, no. I don't need to stop. Like,
Yeah.
for me, I just enjoy everything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I enjoy to work. I enjoy golfing. I enjoy hanging out with my wife. Like, I literally only do things I enjoy. And so if I get joy doing it, then
It's not work.
yeah,
fun.
like I have energy. It energizes
Yeah, I
me.
was
It
gonna say,
doesn't
it's
drain
energy.
me. And so I think you got to look at the things in your life that bring you joy. And unfortunately, here's the truth. A lot of entrepreneurs and business people, they find a lot of joy in making money and working. And so they want to just like only do that. And then kind of coming back to the family is like a burden to them. Like, oh, I got to go.
I have to go home.
Yeah, I got to
Have
go home and, I got to go, these kids and, my wife's nagging at me and I would rather, this is the truth.
It
and
is,
then,
it is.
I'd rather be at work where everybody like is with me. It's, camaraderie and we're making money and all this stuff. And so then we start to tell ourselves lies where we're like, oh, well, I'm doing this for my wife. When in reality, you're doing it for you. So I would say for me, knowing that I just enjoy hanging out with my family. If somebody tugs at me to do something, I'm just like, nah. Like I have no problem saying no.
Took me a while to get to hang out with you.
Yeah, I'm just
About
like,
a good half a year.
yeah, dude, I'll say no like the whole. I just don't care. I'm like, dude, I'm not obligated to anybody for anything in my life. So it's just like, look, I get that, whatever it is you want to do, like I understand that it's important to you, but I don't have an obligation to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And my obligation is to the things I've committed to in my life. I've committed to my wife long term.
There you go.
Till death do us part.
Yeah.
I had these kids. I'm stuck with them.
Stuck with them.
Yeah. So like I'm committed to these no matter what.
Yeah.
My businesses, I'm pretty committed to them. I created them. I've got employees. We've got all these things, right? And so I look at my commitments and I say, okay, these are my commitments, and these are the requirements for these commitments. And so I know with each business, hey, I got to dedicate this many hours to this business. If I cannot do that, then I need to either remove myself from the business further, or I need to sell the business, I need to stop the business, whatever, because it's just not run the right way where I can give it the proper attention it needs.
Right.
Same thing with family. You know, it's like, all right, we have to have not an agreement, but an understanding. I'll get my wife to sign a contract. I will spend, 30 hours a week with you. No, but like, we have to have an understanding of like, hey, here's on weekends, you're with the family. At nights, you're with the family, and we just have that understanding of what it is. And we're both very happy with it. And then it allows me to go do the rest of the stuff that, I want to do.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess it sounds like it's just time management. Like you make sure that every position in your life and contract, I guess you could say, has its time in place.
Well, that, and you have to also realize when it comes to time, what time can actually be sold to somebody else. And so take, for instance, getting deals. Before I used to spend a lot of time going and hunting deals for the company, right? Because I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I loved the thrill of getting a deal.
The hunt.
Yeah, I love it. And eventually, though, I realized I don't need to do this. I could easily let somebody else do that. I could, get that time back. Or I said sell the time, but I guess buy the time back. I'm going to pay this guy to do this for me instead. And I started to realize that in all aspects of my life. I was like, what could actually be bought back and pay someone else to do it? And what truly requires me? Now, when I think about the aspects of my life, it's very simple. What truly requires me? I have to go work out. I have to put in the work myself. I've got to read the books myself. No one can do it for me. I've got to attend the seminars to an extent myself if I want to go learn. I could send someone on my behalf and try and consolidate it and say, give me the top 5 bullet points you learned.
Right.
Something like that. But for the most part, it's like any self-development is pretty much all you. Family time, it's all me. There's no substitute Ryan. I can go send for the family.
If you're not careful.
Yeah. Hey, can you go hang out with my family for a little bit? So, I know that, okay, I can't sub that out. Great. So I kind of just take what I know for certain I need to do and cannot sub out. And that gives me already my baseline. Then the rest is like, all right, here's like my variable. Here's how many hours I can actually play with and manipulate and figure out what I want to do with.
Right.
Mold the clay. And there will be times in my life where it's super skewed. Maybe I'm starting a new business and I'm like using all of that bucket of time to start that business, and then everything else is kind of taking a back seat. It may or may not do as good because I'm not involved, and it's just is what it is.
Right.
It's just a sacrifice I got to make to get this going. Great example of that was when I started social media and YouTube. I was like, hey, I am going to take away from doing deals. We are going to get less deals because I'm just not going to be involved anymore.
Right.
I accept that in pursuit of this.
Of a bigger thing.
Yeah. And thankfully it worked out.
Right.
But that was a decision, and there's always a trade-off. When you choose to do something with your time, something else gets taken away. Unfortunately, though, most will take from the other buckets.
Right.
They're
Their
like
core buckets, their family.
They'll take from that because they'll be like, well, I still want to maintain these, but I also want to get this going. So I don't want to take from these. Let me take from, this other
an hour
bucket.
from my family's time versus. I like the way you put that, where you said, it's like you took away a little way away from your business, a little less money, but knowing you're going to put that time somewhere else. It's not like I'm going to take away from my family to add more here. And then before you know it, you're working 12, 13-hour days and, leaving your family behind.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people only think of time in terms of dollars. And so, and that's kind of the way that we view opportunity cost is time and money. And so they're like, well, hanging with my family does not make me any money.
Right.
So let me take an hour from there so I can go make, $100, $1,000 here. And it's just the time that you spend on your health, your family, with God and those things have infinitely more value than you can even put a dollar sign on it.
100%.
So when I look at that and I'm like, okay, on the weekends when I'm just hanging with my family and stuff, people would say, well, the opportunity cost is you could be working and making, whatever. You could have made $20,000. You could have got a deal. And I'm like, nah, because I just gained like if you want to put dollars on it, millions in emotional value, in mental and, spiritual and all these other things that I choose to spend time on that you just can't even put a dollar figure on.
For sure. No, I completely agree. I think that's why we have Rat Race to FI as well, because we've seen that happens a lot in the Latino community and the minority community, where you spend a lot of time away from your family to make money to feed your family. But then, as we grow up, like for example, me, I didn't really grow up a lot with my dad because he's always working.
Right.
So like if my dad would have been FI, maybe I would have had more time with him. Maybe the divorce wouldn't even have happened, right?
Right.
So that's what that's what happens if people don't, educate themselves financially. Like you've obviously already done. So you know how to keep your marriage strong, your business strong. You know how to keep all those things strong because you give them time, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we have Rat Race, for things like that we're like, we know that we can help marriages. We know that we can help people's businesses. We know that we can help people have better relationships. And that's kind of like the Trojan horse of Rat Race, right? Like, yeah, we want you to reach 5, but we know that it comes with way more things than just financial independence.
Right.
You're going to be able to give back to your kids better, back to your family better. You're going to be just a better person if you have your time back.
Right. As long as you use FI properly.
Correct. Exactly. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's part of what we talk about a lot.
Yeah. No, I love that, dude. It's kind of my message as well. I just don't really have a name for it. I just talk about it. I was like, guys, this is how you should live. Like, I think
we branded it. We put it into
I like it. I should have did. Well, I have my raise, planner and all those things, but
we'll sell it to you.
All right. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Speaking of wife and kids and balance, and I don't know how you do it, because I watch you and I'm like, this guy's a lunatic. He's waking up at 2:30. He's on set filming his TV show for like 50 hours a week. He's on Zoom calls another 30 hours. I'm like, does this guy have like 48 hours in a day? Like, what is he doing?
I feel like I do. I feel like I get a lot of stuff done, but people ask me all the time, why do you work so hard? And going back to the Instagram post, I remember what I felt like when I had nothing to offer.
Yeah.
And I remember what it felt like when I was I was like, so my self-esteem was so low because I'm sitting there, I know how to work, but the only skills I have are construction related. So like, what do I really have to offer that other people can't offer? Now I have a lot that I can offer that other people don't. So I'm like, I just want to go. Now I'm nearing 40 and I'm like, bro, I just got to make everything worth it. Every single day worth it. So I do wake up very early, but the main reason I do that is because I don't want to be bothered from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning. I want to read my books. I want to empty my inbox. I want to go through, I watch your videos. I watch Jerry Norton's videos.
So that's when you start watching videos in the morning?
Yeah, I'm answering emails on one screen and listening to you and other people on the other.
Ah.
Yeah. So I'm doubling, I'm tripling, I'm quadrupling my efforts every single minute of my day. And then I think that I'm talented in the sense that I can remember things. Like I'm not a note taker.
Right.
I just remember things.
Yeah.
So God bless me with some amazing stuff there. And then I have an amazing team. I train my people. I go, your job is to tell me every day that I shouldn't be involved in anything in the business. And if you have to ask me a question, then step one of your job is never go to Pace for anything.
Yeah.
So if you have to come to me, that means we haven't put systems and processes in place. So sometimes I forget that I own businesses. It's weird. It's really weird. I haven't been to my office. So we have an office in Mesa, and then I have an office in Phoenix. We have hundreds of employees between the two. And I haven't been to both of them, except for one of them. We have an event space, so we do events. Jamil and I do an event there every month. I haven't been inside the actual office since last year's Christmas party. Literally. I don't go in. I'm not dealing with any of that stuff. It's just go and raise capital, go do deals. And I literally just get to go do all the fun things that I want to do.
So it sounds to me like your main, I guess, work-related things are go do deals.
Find new opportunities, find new businesses, pass them on to an operator.
Okay, so deals,
right?
Whether
Deals,
it's real estate, business, whatever. Look for new deals.
Yep.
Zoom calls with the students.
Yep. That's where I find my peace. Everything else is work.
Okay. And then that's really it. Like it's just, and then content. Content would be the work, right? So those three things probably take up the majority of your work.
Yeah, I'm at a point now where the only time I'm involved in a real estate deal is when it's like a high level problem. Like seller needs to seller finance this 50 unit multifamily deal and we don't know how to structure the taxes. So I come in and I get involved.
Right.
That's once a month, maybe for an hour. But guess what I'm doing? I'm filming it.
Yeah.
I don't do anything unless there's a camera on me.
Right.
If somebody calls me, I have people call me all the time, and it stresses me out when they go, I need help right now, and I don't have a camera guy by me. I go, I can't help you. And they go, what do you mean you
I
can't
need
help
to
me?
double down.
I have to use my efforts. The law of duality is what I call it. If I'm not doing two things at the same time, like right now, we're doing 5 things at the same time. You and I are building rapport with each other, deepening our relationship. We're creating content, helping other people. Also, I hope to promote Tyke's event because I want to see you guys there. If you guys are at the Tyke's event, come talk to me. That's what I freaking love too. I love going to events, and I'm never the guy in the green room. I'm always the guy in the hallway, and I freaking meet everybody. I love that. Anyway, but the law of duality, I don't do anything unless I'm doing 2 things at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it looks like I have a lot more going on. I will never make a call to my attorney without it being recorded. I will never talk to Molly on my team, my business manager, unless it's being recorded. Literally, I just hired a full-time guy named Jose. Jose's job is to film me 8 hours a day.
How does that go with filming the TV show? Do you film you filming the TV show?
We try. I got a call. So we had Grant and Elena on the TV show a couple of months ago, and they were on set, and my camera guy was like getting B-roll of us on set. And then it found its way on my YouTube channel. And season 2 hasn't premiered yet. Season 2 premiere is this Saturday. And A&E calls me up and they're like, take that YouTube channel or video down right now, blah, 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 blah. They were nice about it, but they were freaking pissed off because what it did is it showed Grant doing something called wild lines, okay? So a wild line is like where Grant says something when the camera's rolling, but it doesn't mesh properly in the timing of like maybe somebody stepped on his line or something happened. So what they do is they go, okay, we'll find a shot where it just is the back of his head and we'll throw audio on top of him and we call it a wild line. So it basically creates the illusion that he said the right thing.
Right. Okay.
And so they tell him the wild lines to read. They give him a list.
Okay.
And so my guy was B-rolling this whole thing and Grant's sitting here reading the lines and saying it.
It's just like the fake TV stuff.
It's like all the fake TV stuff. And my team freaking puts it on the YouTube channel and A&E watches everything I do.
Yeah.
And it was 2 minutes on the YouTube channel. I get a call. And I'm like, okay, so now Jose is not, when I'm filming, Jose is not over there. Eric's not over there. And so they know like they'll follow me to set and they'll do B-roll of me walking onto set. But outside of that, they're not allowed on set.
Got it.
I've violated that rule too many times.
They're like, dude, no duality over here.
No
You
duality.
focus on the TV show.
But what's funny is like when they're ready, like this week we have the premiere. Now they're like, talk about it, talk about the show, talk about the show, talk about the show. I'm like, guys, I could have been talking about it for 6 months.
Yeah.
And the only thing you let me do are like little snapshots on I'm not even allowed to on my phone. So like it's antiquated. It's an antiquated model. It's like a title and escrow business. It's like,
Grant, he was at my office like a month ago.
Yeah.
And we were filming his show.
Yeah.
And he was talking about that. He was like, dude, when I was filming with Discovery, everything they do, it's so backwards.
Yeah. It's like 30-year-old technology.
Yeah.
And like
he's
the way
like, they won't let me talk about it. I tell them to do this. I'm like, this is what's going to get it attention, but you don't want to listen.
How are people going to like, it's almost like we can't talk about Tyke's Summit until Tyke's is live.
Yeah.
That's literally how bad it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how would people show up and how do people watch the show? Like, well, they'll know.
They'll know in like the day before.
Yeah. So what they want us to do is they want us to, when the show goes live and go, hey, hurry, go watch the shows live. It's like, guys, people are busy.
Yeah. Why didn't we just prep them?
Right. So it's an interesting world and it is amazing. It's opened up a lot of doors, but the balance I have, I'm very lucky. So when I got the show came to me. How did I get the show, by the way? Do you know?
No.
YouTube channel. I had 5,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, guys, and I got a freaking TV show. So like people that don't understand content, you don't realize how powerful it really is. 5,000 YouTube subscribers. I posted a video of me walking through a hoarder house and I called all my students. I go, who wants to come and walk this property with me? And I had 30 people show up to this property. We walked this thing and A&E was like, we love that you brought the audience into your YouTube channel. Do you want to do a TV show like that? I go, yes. And now our TV show is nothing like that, but that was the original thought. So I go, yeah, that's all I want to do. I want to include everybody. I want to be all inclusive. I want everybody be involved in everything. But that's how we got the TV show. And can you freaking believe I got a TV show off a 5,000 subscriber YouTube channel?
They don't care. They're just like,
right. So
whatever.
they come to me, we start negotiating, and they go, who else would you like to have on the show? And by that time I'd already called Jamil. I go, hey, we got a TV show. And I go, my wife. I'm not doing this without my wife. And they go, done. Is she doing a lot of listings for you? I go, yeah, she does my flips and she does whatever. And they go, okay, great. And they didn't pay her for the first season because they were like, we're not sure about this. So they didn't pay her for the first season. She crushed it. She did incredibly well. Now she's paid just as much as I am. And Jamil brought Rahima in, and that was not the original intention of the show. The original intention was just Jamil and I, two competitors in Phoenix, competing over the same deals and then flipping them together and saying, let's not fight on this deal. Let's just do it together. And then we were like, no, we need more women representation. And I want to bring my wife in. And I told them, I go, guys, I can't balance any more work without my wife involved.
Right.
So I get to spend 20, 30 hours a week with my wife on set half the year. And so I spend more time with my wife than most people get to spend with their wife.
Yeah, because you guys are working together.
We're working together, and there's a lot of dead time. And you guys know this, like you guys are setting up shots all the time, switching out lenses, right? Cameras, blah, 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 blah. Let's get the lighting, da, da, da. So I get to hang out with my wife and talk with my kids. My kids are on set. So I get to spend so much time with them.
Are you homeschooling them?
We're going to, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old now.
Yeah.
My 14-year-old is not my biological son, so I have no decision-making abilities, but I will never let my kids go into a public school.
Yeah. Well, especially too, just with lifestyle.
Bro, it's impossible.
It's impossible.
I have to drop you off at this time. I have to pick you up at this time.
Yeah.
I'm married to this, and there's a PTA conference, and da da da. And the PTA conference gets canceled the day. We had this thing with Asher like a year ago, where I go to drop. He has a parent-teacher conference, and Laura's like, it would really mean the world to me if you were there. I go, I'll be there. I canceled 2 speaking engagements to go to this parent-teacher conference, and then they cancel it on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, no offense to you guys, but this is not going to work for me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be dictated. My life will not be dictated by your guys' like little mindsets.
Yeah.
What about you guys? You guys going homeschool?
Well, it's funny because if you watch my YouTube channel like 2 years ago, my wife and I were like, we'll never homeschool, freaking, blah, blah, blah. You guys, it's still up. Anyone wants to.
It's because we all used to assume homeschoolers were freaking weird.
Right. And now, a couple of things. Well, one, I grew up in public school. My wife was a public school teacher. So we were all cool with public school. Well, as I got more famous, I'm like, all right, we'll send them to private school.
Right.
And now the way I see it, when I see other entrepreneurs like homeschooling, not because of like necessarily the ideology, which also, like you mentioned, sucks too.
Yeah.
But just like the lifestyle portion of it,
It's impossible.
Yeah, dude, if I'm trying to travel and grow, and I want to hang out with my kids more, and I'm just not going to have a school tell me when we can go on vacation. That's dumb.
You can take your kids to the office. Like, hey, like my daughter, I take her everywhere. Take her to speaking engagements. She flies across the country with me. It's like, I never want that to stop. I want to be able to hang out with my kids as much as possible. I see like Heather Torres from Think Media. You're friends with all them.
Well, Heather and Isaiah have been telling us to do it.
Yeah.
And she's like, let me talk to Mindy. And then we're going to go to dinner together, but just one day out of the blue, because I just floated to Mindy because she didn't want to do it. She's like, I don't want to.
The soft approach.
Yeah, I'm like,
it was a bunt.
Yeah, homeschool would kind of be cool in this way. I know that we've been against it, but
I had to do the same thing, bro.
Yeah.
My wife, we have a nanny now. 2 years ago, we finally
we just got a nanny about
it's a mindset
4
thing
or 5
too.
months ago.
Should have gotten one 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a mindset thing. You had the money for it. It was a mindset thing.
Yeah.
And usually it's for your wife has a mindset thing. Like, no, I need to do all the things.
Yeah. That's how Mindy was.
That's how it was with Laura too. So we hire Jerry Norton. I buy his house and I go, yo, I need your landscaper. I need your pool guy. He goes, do you want my nanny too? I go, yes, I want your nanny. So we got Delaney. Shout out Delaney. She's amazing. And I met their whole family and they have like 7 kids, LDS family. And so now we get to use the kids whenever we need. And they're all homeschooled and they're freaking not weird. In fact, they're freaking cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, babe, like, look at these people. They're regular human beings. This whole belief that they become lizards when they're homeschooled is not real. And so I think it's just recent things.
And I think too, like that probably was true 20, 30 years ago.
Sure.
But today I think you're going to see homeschool as like a very normal choice, like for just normal people too, where they're like, dude, I'd rather my kids just learn from YouTube than deal with
That's what Heather's doing. Like she's getting her kids in classes and courses. Her kids were like watching my course.
Dude, I mean, it's better. You'll learn way more. Like,
how to balance your checkbook, how to put your LLC together, how to do this. Like, what is an LLC? Why do I need an LLC? Why should it? But all these things you don't learn until you're like 25 and you've ran your business incorrectly for 4 years. You go, oh wait,
where's all my money?
Where's all my money?
Why am I broke? I don't get it. I thought I made all this money.
Exactly. So Heather's right. And so I had a conversation with Heather last time you and I saw each other was at Sean Cannell's event.
Yep.
And she told me the same thing. She's like, you got to get on the wagon, dude. And I went home and I go, I talked to Heather, sweetheart. I think we're going to move forward with this. And she's like, all right, I'm on board.
Shout out to Heather. We're going to, Heather,
shout out.
Yeah, we're going to,
and Jerry Norton's been doing it for a long time. They have 10 kids. They're all homeschooled.
Yes. 10
freaking kids. He has 10 success stories.
Well, if you have 10 kids though, I think at that point you have an entire classroom.
Yes.
Like and he has a classroom in his house.
Yes. I turned it into a playroom. There's like a pool table and like a pinball machine and stuff. I'm like, we don't need a classroom in here. So, but yeah, they had a legit classroom in the house.
Well, bro, we got to go to Cardone's dinner right now. So we're actually late. So
I saw Jamil calling us. He's like, where are you guys?
Yeah. So dude, appreciate you coming back on the show.
I can't wait for January, brother. For anybody that's thinking about coming to Tykes, come out. I'll be out there all 4 days. I'll be at the Tykes boardroom, hanging out with all the boardroom members. And then for the following 3 days, I'll be in the hallway meeting everybody. You guys have questions about real estate, raising capital. You have questions about marriage, anything, come meet me. I will be in the hallway the whole time. I'm only speaking one time.
Yeah.
But I'll be in the hallway the whole freaking time meeting everybody till my voice is sore. So I'll see you guys at Tykes.
Perfect, dude.
So you do the endorsements. And I think too, one thing I've even learned is like, not everyone just comes to you wanting you to do stuff. Like, you were proactive. Like, hey, I use your product. Mm-hmm. I think we can mutually benefit from this. Are you interested? And you did it. Mm-hmm. And it says a lot about why you were able to do so much different, like so many things different than what the rest of the bodybuilding community was doing. So as far as like, the business side of it, we could talk about even more of what you're doing today, but on the competing side of things, like how did you like stay so consistent for 10 years, finishing in the top 2 almost every year?
For me, it's a common question that people ask. And I mentioned to you earlier, like consistency is key to everything, right? So if you asked me how structured my life was, like I wasn't a social person. I pretty much locked myself indoors and I trained twice a day, whether it was pre-contest or off season. I literally prepped my meal like as I ate, and I would eat 6 or 7 meals a day. And everything was fresh because I didn't believe in microwaving food or reheating food. So today you have meal prep companies, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm actually involved in one, but I prepped everything fresh and I would weigh everything and I would, do my business in between each meal, but I kept myself at home. I restricted travel when I needed to make progress. I did have my endorsement deals that, would pull me on some of the weekends here and there. But when I trained for a competition, I cut all travel 16 weeks out. And I think for me, like that, I call it a boxy lifestyle. I lived in a box, meaning like it was like, okay, kitchen, gym, sleep, rest, and that was it. I had a circle, it was like a bubble. So the consistency with that, it was always progression in my life. So if I never missed a meal, never missed a workout, every workout was thought about. Each day I knew exactly when I went in the gym and when I was going to train, what body part I was going to do, what exercises, how many repetitions. I went through it over and over in my head, and I knew exactly what to do. And that's what made me great at what I did, because I was just so dedicated. And we didn't have social media, and I think that social media throws a lot of people off now because you watch people and they're in the gym working out, they're filming their workouts or this and that. Like, even when the guy came and filmed my DVDs, I said, listen, number one rule, do not ask me a question, do not talk to me. And if you go back and you watch these videos, I didn't say one thing. I just trained. And then, of course, when you came to my house, I would open up and talk a little bit. But if I trained with someone back in that era, I remember I would get off a phone call on the way to the gym or whatever, and I'd say, listen, my phone's going to be in my car. I never took a phone in the gym, and anyone that trained with me weren't allowed to carry a cell phone because I couldn't even have a phone ring because it would annoy me so much. And that's how you can tell the intensity of what I did. That's how I treated it. It was a job. I was trying to be the best at it and set the standard, and that's pretty much what I did.
Well, I think what stuck out to me from that story is that you were looking at every little edge. Like there are some pieces where people be like, that's a bit extreme, but that's the difference between being one or two, the little edge. You know, you're like, okay, cell phone, I don't want any distraction. If I get one less rep or one rep that's not as good, that could dictate whether I win. With microwaving food, this might be messing up the calories or however it is. Like, I don't want to risk it, you know?
You are an athlete. You know that there's always someone that's better than you, genetic-wise.
Yep.
Okay? But work ethic means a lot, right? So I felt, okay, I'm not the most genetically gifted guy. I did have great genetics. But I still had to work my ass off to do what I did. And that's why I did not leave anything unturned in order to get to that one goal. And as you see, if you look at my history, let's take only the Olympia. I mean, 15th, 8th, 2nd, first, you know, all the way through. So you see what the pattern did in order. I mean, it came up from basically last to first place. And that doesn't come from, you know, I wasn't born into it of like, oh, the guy walks in the show and he's just the greatest at the time, right? You have to work your ass off to get there.
Yeah. So as far as, you know, your daily routine, you talked about how it's like a hamster wheel, like just every day. You never
Groundhog
missed a
Day,
meal.
yeah.
You never missed anything. And I tell that to people all the time, whether in business or sports or real estate. It's like, dude, the best athletes, the best businessmen are the ones who do the same thing over and over. They don't miss a beat. And I've seen that whether it's trying to get real estate deals where it's like, dude, you got to make the calls. It gets boring. It's the same thing every day, but you got to make the calls and talk to the sellers. With YouTube, it's like, dude, you got to put out a video every day. How bad do you want to be a YouTuber? Well, you only put out one video this week. You ain't going to make it. Your competition is doing it like clockwork. And same thing with athletes, man. I watch these baseball players, some of the best that you've seen, man, and you just watch them prepare for a game, and it's consistent. Nothing ever changes. They know what they eat. They eat it at the right time. They go play. They got their recovery after the game. They get their sleep. They wake up. They do it again for 162 games. It's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I did it, from the age of 18. I told you I retired at 40. But to this day, a lot of that structure has fallen into now my life and business, and it's fallen into, if you said to me, Jay, what is your day? I mean, you just asked this question, and I don't think I even answered it, but I literally get up every day, and it's the same thing. I check, okay, what texts come in, and then I get on my email, and I look at, okay, I browse through to see if there's anything important, because I run a business from the East Coast, so I'm 3 hours, you know, behind. So I make sure that nothing is pending, and I drink my glass of water, 2 glasses of water, first thing I do when I wake up, and I take a little bit of a pick-me-up, my pre-workout a little bit, and I get on the step mill for 30 minutes, and I go through my day of what I have to do, what I have to conquer. Sometimes I'll look at social media, like, just to see what's kind of happening, but I'm not one of these guys that sits on the phone. I finish with that, cook the same breakfast I had for the past 20 years.
What's the breakfast?
So I drink the egg whites now. So I mentioned I do about 30 egg whites, but I drink
30 egg whites today still.
No.
Oh,
I drink.
you used
I
to.
drink 2 cups of egg whites.
Okay.
I blend it in a blender with ice and a little bit of my amino acids. I have 2 whole eggs. I have 2 slices of Ezekiel bread. I have 1 cup of cottage cheese, and I have a bowl of grits, and I have sometimes a cup of coffee or a cup of tea.
What are the macros on that?
I mean, I eat probably 100 grams of protein, and I have about probably 200 grams of carbs.
So on the drinking the egg whites, Do you just do that because it's easier to down them?
It is, instead of cooking, because if you cook 2 cups of egg whites mixed with I'd have 2 whole eggs every morning. It's a pretty good portion of, and I told you, when I did the 30 egg whites, man, that plate was.
I can't believe
And I
you
used
ate
to,
30 egg
I
whites.
used to crack all the eggs. So I would crack 30 eggs, and I would buy 30 dozen eggs at a time from a local farm stand. So my whole refrigerator, people would come over. I remember when I was in college, my friends would come over and be like, "Hey man, you got any beers in it?" And they open the fridge and it's like all eggs. It's all eggs in there. Because I was eating, some of my diets, I'm not going to lie, I was eating over 100 eggs a day, 100 egg whites.
Oh my God.
And I was cracking this. So I'd have bowls in my fridge and I would crack the eggs. And, you laugh at that, but I would buy a whole cow at a time. I had a local butcher and I would have a whole cow. I'd walk in the butcher shop and my cow would be hanging. And I'd say, this is hamburg, this is steaks, this and that. And I would buy a whole cow. And then they'd have packs of chicken. Like, you go to a restaurant, back of a restaurant, they have like packs of chicken. I'd buy 140 pounds of chicken at a time. So I had 2 freezers in my garage. Yeah. And one was the beef freezer and one was the chicken freezer. And then I had the eggs in I was a machine. All I did was eat, and I would take out 5 pounds of meat between the 2 a day. So I take out like 2.5 pounds. I would usually break it down into like 1 pound Ziploc bags. So anytime I brought the meat home, it was like a whole chore to have us all breaking the meat down so it would be in bags so I could thaw stuff out on a daily basis. And I would eat 5 pounds of meat a day, plus the eggs.
How many grams of protein is this a day?
I was eating about 400 grams on a very consistent basis.
Dang, that is insane. Yeah. How many calories a day, were you eating?
I never really counted the calories, although I figured it was around between probably 6,000 to 7,000.
Wow, that's it.
Because I'd eat a lot of carbohydrates too. Remember, I was trying to keep the fats low. So, when you talk carbs and protein, carbs and protein each have 4 calories per gram, where, fat has 9 calories per gram. So that's why, I tried not to add any fat to my diet. So that's the one thing, that I was different from a lot of bodybuilders, is I didn't actually take in fat, extra essential fats and all that through my diet protocols. And even when I dieted for competitions, I'd switch to white fish, which was very low in fat. And that's why, if I put someone on a diet protocol, I try to keep the fat calories lower. So I'm not someone, if you say, hey, I want to be on a program and I want to snack, and I would give them cashews or nuts. I don't necessarily do that. I try to keep the actual fat's fat. Okay, I understand there's good and bad fat, certain olive oils, whatever else. I tried to keep that to a minimal. So, because then it didn't halt my metabolism, because when you take in more fat calories, it's going to slow your metabolism a little bit.
Really?
So when you have a lower fat diet, you can eat more like the machine, because I had to get in my 6 or 7 meals a day. That was the key every single day. So that was routine.
And I assume you were eating lean beef then.
Lean beef. I was getting it from a butcher shop.
Yeah. You weren't eating the Wagyu.
No,
we
didn't even have that. That didn't exist. So it was I was getting anything at a grocery store is never as great as a butcher shop. And I was in the middle of cow country. I was in Massachusetts, rural area. So I would buy my cow there.
So, you're talking about just purely chicken, eggs, and beef. And you said sometimes you'd go to fish when you were trying to really lean out.
White fish, yeah.
Why not, these other things like salmon or pork?
Too higher in fat. It's a good fat, but I was a carb eater too.
Do you see any scenario in nutrition where it makes sense to, do lower carbs, high fat, like keto?
I'm not a huge keto. I was a little more stern about that earlier. I think I said it's shit, right? But it's not something that you can do long term, because in the end, you're not always going to stay on that keto diet, eating out or, family functions, whatever else. I think if you can stay consistent with, what we call the zigzag diet, meaning if you fluctuate calories on certain days from different sources. So like you're doing a higher, carb days.
Yeah, that's what I'm on right now.
And what happens is, ideally what you want to do, and I want people to pay attention to this, is, like I mentioned, calories from protein and carbs are the same, right? It's 4 calories per gram, right? So what I try to do is like if the carbs are higher, the protein goes down. So you still get the same calorie. And then when the carbs come down, the protein goes up. So it shifts and you kind of eat the same calories, but your body is shifting sources.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of tricks your body because your body knows, you know, the way it functions, a protein from a carbohydrate, right? I mean, how it breaks it down into sugars and everything. And you need glycogen in your muscle, like especially if you work out. So that's why carbs are so important. Like that's going to give you your fuel and it's going to give you your tissue expansion. Like we talk about, there's a lot of fluid in the muscle, but it's also glycogen, which is from your carbohydrates. Yes, protein can convert if you're on a deficit.
So you always had the long-term mindset when it came to stocks, just studying Warren Buffett and Peter Lynch and these guys.
100%, because if you listen to Buffett and the way he obviously preaches and whatnot, it's really about looking at it as the underlying company. Most people see it as a stock, it's a stock price or whatever. Whereas when I look at it, I think about it as what's going on with the underlying business. And if I'm going to invest in a stock, I'm thinking about it from the underlying company because there's an actual business there, right? And when you buy a share of a stock, you represent part ownership of that company. It could be like this small of a little portion of that company, but you go buy one share of Apple, you're a part owner of Apple now.
Yeah.
It's just a really small part, right?
Well, and you know what's funny is I recently had a microcap guy on the show, and he was the first stock guy I had on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we've been about 100 episodes in, and I haven't interviewed one of these guys. That's probably not smart. And he said the same thing. He's long-term,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he's like, day trading ain't where it's at. And he's like, you know, Ryan, because I was like, I don't get it. Like, how do I know which one to pick?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, Ryan, you know what a good business looks like. Like, look, you already created them. You could look at the underlying asset. And he's like, I like microcaps because I can call up CEOs and get to know them and see what's going on. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, I never thought about it, but yeah, if I could go talk to CEOs and go see their company, I could tell you right off the bat whether they have a good sales team, they're handling their operations, like what's their products look like.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm investing that way, then yeah, I can bet on a company.
Yeah, 100%. And nowadays, it's so much easier than it's ever been as far as accessing all the data you want. You know, past financials, the reports, the 10K, the 10Q, which will tell you everything in depth about what the business is up to, what they're going after. Conference calls, you know, we make it. I have an app called the Hungry Bowl, and we make it so literally you just type in a ticker symbol, and you can listen to a conference call right through the app, right on your phone.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so everything is so easy compared to how it used to be, because in the past you would have to call up a broker to make a trade, right? Like get on the actual phone, which is just crazy to even think about. And, you know, the commissions you had to pay were insane. So it was really, you know, stock market investing, I will say decades ago was really just a rich man's game or a retiree's game versus now, I don't care how much money you have, whether it's 3K or 5K or 10K or 1K, you know, you can get at least started in it. And yeah, looking at it from the business model is the best perspective. The issue with stock market investing is the market's open, you know, 5 days a week, every week. And you see all these crazy fluctuations. Oh, this stock just went down 20% and up 20%. And really, like, it doesn't mean
business didn't change.
Yes, exactly. But everybody freaks out. And so that's the great thing I think real estate investing has, where, you know, no real estate investor has to look at their portfolio every day and be like, oh, my property just dropped 20%. Oh, it's up 20%. I'm a genius.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's was my problem early on with crypto, because it's even more volatile.
Oh, it is, yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh, dude. And it's just like, to your point, if I believe in the long haul, I just got to sit.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And then if the cool thing with stock market investing, other than like if you get in a great company, you can make a lot of money, is you get these time periods when things don't make any sense, where stocks will just go down and you can pick them up for very, very cheap. Which I'll say, you know, I love real estate as much as anybody, but I'll say with real estate, you don't really get those opportunities other than something freakish like we had in obviously 07 through 2011, where you get this crazy down market. But even in a lot of recessions, real estate usually doesn't drop much. And so it's so much more stable. You know, you would think, oh, if a recession happens, real estate's got a tank. It doesn't really work like that unless things really got overinflated in a massive way. With stocks, you get deals every day that don't make any sense. A company drops 30% on their earnings for no reason. And it's like they missed their revenue by, you know, 1%. And the stock drops 30%. And it's like, really? You know?
Yeah, that's a stock I want to go after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hope in that meeting, that's January 9th.
Yep.
So January 9th, I hope that I can impart some wisdom to people that are maybe not as far along in their journey as I am.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what everybody else is trying to do, because that is a room full of people trying to do kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different, I guess, niches and verticals of real estate and who's doing what. There's a lot of land guys. Obviously, you're in the creative finance space. There's developers. There's everything. So I think like everyone in there is just looking for opportunity, just like you, of like, hey, what can we do? Like one of my things with that is we got the Tyke Tank, which is like Shark Tank. People can pitch businesses and other things.
When's that?
We're going to launch it here soon.
That's sick.
Yeah.
You going to do that on your YouTube channel?
I might need to. I was going to do it behind the scenes because I'm just like, let's make the money together in the boardroom.
Bro, that needs to be its own freaking YouTube channel. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do it.
So if somebody like January 9th, you've got the boardroom and then you've got 3 days of the event.
Yeah.
And that's going to be in Vegas.
Yep.
Who is the ideal person for going to that event?
I mean, I'll say anyone who's watching this right now. But yeah, I mean, it's anyone in real estate, any investor, entrepreneur, Web3 people. So, you know, like really the focus of the event is if Future Flipper and Sub 2 are about, hey, like how do we get deals today in this current market? And how do we, you know, do that? Tykes is about, hey, where are things going to be 5-10 years from now?
Yeah.
How do we start? You know, we don't have to go fully focus on building the next, you know, exchange or whatever's going on, fractionalizing real estate. Like it doesn't need to happen right this moment because this moment isn't ready for it. But how do you start to become aware of it and build and, you know, start acquiring the businesses that are
and be on the cutting edge?
Yeah.
Rather than saying, why did I miss this? Yeah.
You know, because if we all knew that, you know, YouTube, if we were thinking about this 5 years ago, right? Or we were thinking about Bitcoin 7-8 years ago.
Right.
Like,
but there were people that were, and they were in meetings.
And that's what this is.
Right.
Because real estate is going to change dramatically in the next 5 to 10 years, and nobody's preparing for it.
Right.
Except
I love
us.
it. Except us. I love it. I'm
and if
excited.
if we can get the business that's going to be the leading industry, right? If we have the business that replaces the title companies, or, you know, you've got
that's a big thing for me. So we own title companies, and I know that technology has to change. It has to. It is so antiquated and horrible, especially in the creative finance realm. Like, there's so many amazing things that I can do in creative finance just because paperwork, I can be so creative with it. I mean, we were talking about how my son and the cars and all that kind of stuff are off air. That I feel like that's the number one thing that has to change in real estate. You see Open Door and OfferPad and all these companies coming in and going, we want to remove the agent from the equation. I'm like, I think the thing that's going to be completely disrupted is the way deeds are transferred, the way paperwork is transferred, the way title and escrow services and title insurance and all that kind of stuff is going to completely be disrupted.
That's for sure the first domino.
And it's paperwork. It's doable. Like Web3 and all this stuff, NFTs, all this stuff will 100% disrupt that entire industry. So you look at Fidelity Title. What's the conversation that Fidelity's having behind the scenes?
Well, but like even just think about the real estate process as a whole. Like, why does it take 30 days to get a loan?
Or Jamil just got a loan on his beach house, took 6 months.
Why?
So if you're a lender, it's like, how do you speed up that process? And do you think it's because of the new technology?
A lot of it is paperwork.
Yeah.
I think like most of what takes a loan so long is this guy's underwriting this, then that, then this. It's like, dude, if you have financials ready to go, you get the financials in the system, you get an appraisal, what else is needed, right? How does it take 30 days? Well,
I was a licensed loan officer for a while. And I remember it would sit on an underwriter's desk for 3-4 days before anybody even looked at it.
Right.
And it would sit there because they got a stack of whatever. So technology is gonna disrupt that whole industry. And then the underwriter would come back and go, we're missing this. And it would go back and then just start the whole process all over. And you're like, the consumer's like, man, my lender took forever. It's like, well,
you forgot something.
You forgot something, or you omitted something, or you didn't know how to fill it out instead of picking up the phone. So it's on both sides, but the technology will completely disrupt and remove all of that stuff.
Yeah,
and people
AI
on the
will be
cutting
able
edge of
to
that
just
Bro, there's billions to be made in that.
Yeah. So that's the point of
Billions.
Tykes, is that we both know that because we're in the industry and we see the inefficiency.
Yeah.
And it's just like whoever solves it wins. And that's how I look at it. I'm like, the tech isn't there yet. But if I'm looking at ways to become a billionaire, right? You can definitely get there owning real estate. And like it will be a slow grind. Like nobody became a billionaire overnight owning real estate.
No.
Like you'll get there, right?
Yeah.
I know tech billionaires overnight.
Yeah.
I know people who have, like what all these guys, like what Cardone's talking about doing with rolling up all these companies into one company, like that can get you to $1 billion really quick.
Right.
So that's the way my mind has transitioned. Instead of like solely focusing on real estate deals, like we're always going to do real estate deals. I love real estate.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, how do I go and get these companies? Because I love tech and companies.
Right. I think you look at real estate in my world, it's the foundation of everything that we have. And you're right. I think that for us, we acquired this year, 225 million total real estate this year. And obviously there's a lot of debt on that.
Yeah.
But that debt pays off over a certain amount of time. It appreciates. We've got cash flow, blah, 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 all that stuff. For sure, there's no doubt in my mind I'll be a billionaire before I die.
Yeah.
But how and why is being a billionaire, going back to what you said, why? My goal was, and still is, my big goal is, how do I turn 100 of my top people, not 100. How do I take 15, maybe 20 of my top people that are with me from today going forward? How do I take them and make them all worth 20, 30, 40 million dollars in the next 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I got to do a lot more work. I got to do a lot more stuff. I got to get involved in stuff that is faster than real estate, because real estate pays a lot of bills today, makes me a lot of money. But how can I make other people worth 10 million, 20 million dollars? It's got to be with technology that's going to disrupt a title company.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what I've been thinking about with now building out my parent company to house everything and acquire the companies. Like, well, at that point, you can now start giving people stock.
Yes.
And they got something to look forward to. And if the company itself becomes worth a lot of money and you've got this stock from the ground up, it's a lot of money to be made.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. We're telling people that you'll get ownership in all of our multifamily deals. They're on the exact level, but if you're with the company X amount of years, the ownership vests and da. And I clocked it all out and I go, I was way more excited about other people becoming worth $10 million than me becoming a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
That was way more fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I got the money. I don't need anything. I want more stuff. I'd love to have every Patek on the planet. I'd love to have 5 yachts and 7 airplanes. I'd love to have all that stuff. But what I have is the same thing you have. Loving wife, amazing kids.
Mm-hmm.
I have my health. It's like, okay, now what more can I do? And how can I amplify my reach in helping other people?
Yeah.
So I get way more excited saying, I'm going to turn that person into a multi-millionaire because they're helping me build my business.
Yeah. No, I love it.
I got into lifting weights mainly for baseball, right? It's just like, hey, this is going to help me with my career. This is what I have to do. And I always wondered, I was like, I wonder what I'm going to be like when I'm done playing. Am I going to keep up this routine and whatever else, right? But as you know, you do it for so long your whole life, you can't stop. Like, this is who I am. And so now today, I have no reason to like try and be strong or anything else.
Yeah.
And I still go to the gym every morning. I'm still putting up, I'm just as strong as I was when I played. And I'm always pushing myself because that's just like who I am today. And to your point, the stress relief, it makes me feel good. I get my endorphins. I'm energized. And I honestly believe that, at least in business, we have, whatever, everyone's competing in business. And, you get all these guys who don't take care of their health, right? And so, to me anyways, I look at them, I'm like, dude, you can't compete with me if I'm in shape. Like, you just cannot physically compete with me in terms of how I work compared to how you work. You're just not there. So
it's a structure though, right? So if you feel dominant on all angles, it's going to make you that much better in everything that you do. And that's why, like, I don't look at myself anymore as a bodybuilder. Like someone like you may, when you title me as a 4-time Mr. Olympia, like I've done so many things now since bodybuilding, and I did so many things while I was bodybuilding. Like I was like a universal bodybuilder. Like I did it all. And I always thought about the long game. okay, what am I going to do after, and how am I going to transition? How am I going to drop the body weight? And I knew that I would continue to work out. You know, did I think that I would do cardio every morning? No, I didn't, because I didn't necessarily like it when I was 300 pounds. But to me now, cardio is more exciting than weight training to me.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because I don't have to think about the weights that I'm doing or the sets. I can literally get on a step mill and get in a zone and really dig into like big life choices of like business.
That's
and
where you get your
relationships.
thinking done.
Yeah, like it's hard to explain, man. And some of our people probably understand that. And I just get into a zone and I can just like I can do work.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've come up with some of my best ideas at the gym because you're sitting in between sets. What are you doing? You're just sitting there thinking. You're like, well, probably you were different. You're thinking about that next set. Like
I'm thinking about how am I going to get 8 or 10 reps out of this.
Yeah.
Like you just mentioned to me something that I caught on to, and you're like, I'm just as strong today as I was. Like I don't give a damn about how much weight I press, as long as I look like I can do a certain weight. That was our whole goal. Like bodybuilding is, you're posing on stage. No one's asking you how much you bench press or squat.
Right.
I can brag to you about I did X of weights or whatever, but I just wanted to look like that guy.
Right.
So that's really what my whole goal was. It wasn't like you still want to be strong, like you probably meant like a bench press or whatever.
Yep.
Like I don't even get under a bench press anymore. I use dumbbells or whatever else, but it's just that mindset that gives me and sets the tone for the day, right? So when I'm, doing that cardio, and then of course I get a weight session in during the day too, but it's usually towards the middle or end of the day, where you're an early morning trainer. There's no right or wrong time to train. Everyone has different times that they prefer, but I usually train like late afternoon. It works better for me.
Nice. So speaking of that, I mentioned strength was my goal. Playing baseball, didn't really matter how I looked. All I care about is how far I hit the ball, right? I mean, obviously you were working at QT. That wasn't enough to build your portfolio to where it is today. Like, how did you, since you weren't taking money out and these were all long-term things, like how did you start making money to invest?
Yeah, so what I did is I try to live really, really modestly. So always like way under my lifestyle that I could be live way under that lifestyle.
Right.
So, I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment when I moved out of my parents at 21. Then I had my girlfriend who ended up becoming my wife. She moved in, started handling the bills. So I was always just like maximum amount I could put in the market, maximum amount. And I hit $100,000 at 23.
Wow.
In the stocks. And then I hit 200K actually at 24. Things were going really good at that time. And
just not active income wise, just the stocks.
No, just stocks. Yeah. And I kept rising the ranks at Quick Trip, so I started making like $50,000 a year, and then at one point like $55,000 a year. As I kind of rose up. So, and then I tried to keep my expenses really low. That was a thing for me because at that time I had limited income potential. I didn't know how to start a business.
Right.
So, at Quick Trip, like if you do good, maybe you can make an extra $10,000 a year if you get a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, so my thing was I got to live modest and I got to try to invest as much as possible. So nowadays, thank goodness I figured out as an entrepreneur, you have untapped income potential. But I will say for anybody out there that's watching this and you're in that situation where you don't know how to become an entrepreneur yet, you don't know how to take your income into your own hands. I think the best thing, the only thing you really have is trying to cut down on expenses during that time, invest as much as possible until hopefully you get to a stage where you can have untapped income.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Thanks for making it to the end. The good news is I've got another one that I know you're gonna like, and all you gotta do is click it right here. Linking it right here. All you gotta do is just click it, and you're gonna see this new episode that you're gonna love. Whatever your goal is, 10x it. If our goal is to make, whatever, say a company's goal is 10 million, what would it look like to be at 100 million? Like, think about that. And you start thinking differently. You're like, okay, if we had to go for 100 million, what would we have to do differently?